are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Weird Science Comics YouTube channel, where we're going to go through the previous show. This is the previous show. It was coming out on Monday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but I thought maybe I'll change it up because I do end up recording the Marvel podcast. I do a large chunk of that Monday night as well. And what happens is I end up where I either have to cut that short or I end up late. I'm still not exactly on time, but that's fine. That is me. But I thought also, you know what? We end up doing 2 shows on Sunday, then on Monday. We have one on Friday. Maybe put some space between it. Maybe there's just too much Jimmy Boy that you can handle. I know there's just so much I can handle, and I've gone past that for now years and years. So I figured, no, Tuesday, day before the comic books come out, we can see what we're excited about, see what, we might be interested in. And as I always say about this show, it is the out with the old, in with the new. We could get looking forward to this week's books. And, maybe a positive sort of way, but just because I end up reading a solicit doesn't mean that I think or know that a book is great. I have done, obviously, I just said, I've actually reviewed a bunch of Marvel stuff. I won't spoil anything here. I am just going to read you the solicits. But if there's something that you're interested in that I may not mention, it just might be that I'm a dummy. I may not know a book is coming out, or maybe I don't know how great it is. Please let me know in the description, in the show notes, whatever you want to call it here on YouTube. I'm used to saying show notes, but it's kind of the description here on YouTube. And in the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do, because then you can tell when we end up going live. Because when it says, 8, it may mean 8:03. I usually don't try to skip things. People would have noticed, though, that usually I would put up our little thing and, hey, I'm going to have a show. I didn't do that yesterday because I knew that I wasn't going to have time. I knew that we were going to go over, and I think that might be something that keeps on happening. So I didn't want to, end up just keep not doing it. I like to have a consistent deal. I like to have things going on. Now, in the meantime, you might also realize that I'm a little winded because I ended up where I'm making dinner. I was making dinner for our dog, and then I had to run up the stairs to give the dog the meal. Then I come running down. I have 3 minutes. I made a keto wrap. I have this keto wrap stuff, right? And also with that, also end up having some. I'm looking at it now. I'm going to get hungry. I have bacon on it. I have some burger. I have a little bit of onions. I have this crazy spicy mayo. Should be about, I would say, about like 3 grams of carbs, but actually like 6 grams of fiber. So I think that I'm in the plus here. And it's just sitting there. I can't eat it. And then I was thinking, well, maybe we'll have interludes here. I'll go, you know what? I like this song. And I end up playing the song and just shoving it in my mouth and just going for it. But it's sitting here. It's there. I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to look at the live chat, because if you are listening to this in the replay, we do this live, and we're going to be doing it Tuesday at 8. I just think it's a better way to end up, distancing it from the other stuff. And then as well, it's the night before the books come out, and you have H8R. Dave says Kari Andrews, Wolverine, and Spider-Man. It's one of the books that we reviewed. It looks fantastic. It does. Again, that's not a spoiler. It looks great. And in it, you do end up playing up some classic scenes in a bit of a twist way. But if you are into Kari Andrews' art, or if you're just into great art, I'm more of a story guy. But when I see good arts, I knows what I knows. And I saw that. I'm like, yeah, it looks good. Fantastic Comics says, yeah, Jim, that sounds like a good idea, Tuesday show. I think it's better. It's the night before the comics come out. It separates it from the other things. You kind of have a bit of a reprieve. I think Fantastic Comics is saying that. Like, we have enough of you, Jim. We end up. And also, as a bit of a celebration tonight as well, you can all, relish the fact with myself that I actually got my medicine. And the problem is I end up where I do take Adderall. and people around me. I'm not going to tell you that and it wasn't anything, because there's a lot of stigma and things with stuff like that. And I have a background in psychology. I have all that stuff. But in the meantime, it was nothing that I really wanted to go on. I was told at one point, there was an ultimatum that you better get medicated or people would be leaving me. Not that they aren't anyway, right? Because I am an easy one to leave. But in the meantime, if you had to deal with me 24/7, you would realize, yeah. But the problem is, I hadn't had it now for a couple weeks, and I was having issues. And then when you get it back, boy, it hits you. It hits you hard. And maybe I shouldn't have taken it tonight, but I figured, you know what? We have a show. Let's get going. In the meantime, I'm listening to a Led Zeppelin documentary, and they're just talking about, coke and things like that. And I'm like, am I just as bad as Peter Grant, the manager of Led Zeppelin? The answer is, thank God, no. But here we go. Here we go. And some of the other deals is, and you, Edward has to give me, and I'll give the reason why I think he super chatted this is because he knows that I wouldn't have read it unless it was that. It is backwards word magic. It is where you have Zatana Week, that, hey, Jim, it's Zatana Week, and it is. And I'm looking forward to it. And we'll talk about Zatana in a little bit. Obviously, I have DC podcasts. I have Marvel podcasts. We have indie stuff as well. I just ended up doing the indie podcast earlier, but we end up doing that a little bit late, what we did this week, and that's on our Patreon. If you're interested, go to the show notes / description. You can go over there, and I'll start. What I probably will start doing is, as a little bit of a, hey, this is what we're doing. Every time we do something, I might end up putting a post about it on the YouTube, just so people do understand how much we do. But we ended up talking about Geiger. I think it was Geiger 14. And we also talked Battle Beast. We got to that, which is really good. And everybody really, really liked that. But here, Edward, I think what Edward's doing, he's buttering me up. He is, because he'll tell you. And Zatana, it is one of the books that ends up getting on our Patreon spotlight a lot. You end up having 2 books that each week are big badasses, the top levels of our Patreon. They pick 2 books in a poll of that week's current books to be exclusive to the Patreon. And we end up talking about it for a little more, things like that. So with that, Zatana, I think, has been on the Patreon every time. And at first, Edward was upset because he's a huge Zatana fan. He's the biggest Zatana fan I know. And I think that he was worried that maybe, like, oh, look at Hater Jim, as Fear Monarch says. I am Hater Jim. And but he realizes I'm not being, I'm not being mean or hating. I'm being very honest. The art in that Zatana book is great. The story, it has good art, is what we will say. But we'll be getting to the books again. And Dungeon Crawler Carl said, 8-hour show. Let's go. It's true. I ended up taking the Adderall, and then I realized, I'm like, holy moly, it is hitting me. And I end up, because of my problems, I actually have 3 separate deals. I have like an extended release. I have 2. They gave me 2 emergency things a day. I don't usually take them all, but I end up where I just took an emergency deal because it's instant and it's not as much. And boy, that hit me. That hit me hard. Yeah. Fear Monarch said they call them tolerance breaks for a reason. And they do have people who will actually go on breaks just so they can get back to, hey, I'm not really feeling this anymore. I usually don't feel it ever. It usually just helps me get things. I realize at the end of the day, I'm like, oh shit, I got like 7 things done today. What happened? Yesterday, when I ended up getting on the Marvel podcast with my man, Dr. Matt, he just asked me, it's like, how many things were you supposed to accomplish? What was on your, docket today? And I have like 17 different menus of things, or not menus, calendars. I'm going to do this. I get alarms. I said, there was probably 7 things I wanted to get done today. He said, how many did you get done? I said, I think I'm -2. I think I made it worse for some of the others when I finally do get to them. And one of the things was I couldn't do the show. But Tuesday it is. We'll do it. And I'll just say, Fantastic Comics says that it's a good idea. set in stone. Because if you have listened to some of the podcasts or even the videos that I do, it only takes one. It takes one comment to build a village. It does. And we will do this from now on, 8 o'clock Tuesday. I think it's a good time. You end up where Fantastic Comics also says Robo Wolf for the win. And Fear Monarch says Robo Wolf does look good. Fear Monarch also said it's Hater Jim with a wink. I ended up getting blocked by a guy today because, legit, the guy was an extreme hater himself and started talking nonsense. And I thought of this, one of the phrases I really like, and I want somebody to say it about me when I'm not telling you to say it about me. I want you to say, like, that Jim, he doesn't suffer fools lightly. Like, I love when people say that. That sounds, I don't know why, it sounds fancy yet badass. And I'm like, that's who I want to be. So I didn't suffer this fool lightly. I ended up giving it to him because he said that the rebirth at DC fell apart because of Black Batman, 5G, which then led to Metal. And I said, first off, you sound like a real piece of crap. But also, that timeline is so off. It's not even close. And so I said to him, listen, you ignoramus. The idea is you ended up having Doomsday Clock. Rebirth was already having trouble anyway. And really, in my mind, and maybe we'll talk about this maybe this next weekend, the idea of Rebirth and what went wrong. To me, there's two things that went completely wrong and didn't keep the Rebirth train rolling. Number one, Heroes in Crisis. Number two was definitely Bendis is Coming. Those two things shut the door on all of the great things. And then there was other stuff, but that really, in my mind, boom, done. And I said to the guy, Metal, first off, came way before 5G, Black Batman, and it was a reaction because Doomsday Clock was delayed. They put out the Metal, then the Death Metal. Then after Death Metal, they fired Didio and didn't have anything to do, so grabbed some of the stuff from 5G and ended up shoving it into Future State, which then led to Infinite Frontier. Then we get Black Batman. Take that. That is Adderall for the win, is what that was. And I think that maybe on Sunday, what we might talk about, I think it'd be interesting. And everybody can let me know. And if you do show up on Sundays, really let me know. Would it be fun to talk about what could have been with 5G and maybe if that would have been better than some of the things we got? Because when people talk about 5G, they always seem to think about the 5 or 5th generation. There's 4 others. When people say, oh, I don't like the idea of 5G, we wouldn't have gotten Bruce Wayne. You would have gotten a lot of Bruce Wayne. You would have gotten a Golden Age Bruce Wayne. You would have gotten a Silver Age Bruce Wayne. You would have had a lot of things. And I think there's some parts of that would have been really, really cool. And may have even led to a feel, while people don't love the New 52, but the variety of that. And I think it could have been pretty cool. But really, Doomsday Clock really could have. Without Doomsday Clock, if Doomsday Clock was on time, we probably wouldn't have Ghost Machine. But we'd have that other, he called it another imprint, but it probably would have been a DC because you wouldn't have had, the disillusionment of DC and combined with Jeff Johns and kind of the separation there. But it was crazy. But here we go. We're doing this now. Hopefully I don't conk out, but we are doing a preview show. As I said, what we do in the show is I go through previews that I'm looking forward to, or even stuff that I think is big, even though maybe I don't look forward to it. But the things that are the big ones, the things that are pretty cool that are coming up this week, I'll give you the title, obviously, the creative team, and the price, and the solicit. And we're going to start with Absolute Flash. I usually start with DC, by the way. Absolute Flash number 3. Me and Gray will be talking about this. It's the only Absolute book this week, and it feels weird to have some of these new waves by themselves. I actually thought we were going to get Wonder Woman and Flash together, or say, a Superman and Flash, whatever, but you get a little bit of a space there for Absolute Flash. I hope that you get a little bit more than what we have. It seems like Jeff Lemire is really, really enamored with his rogues. Even coming up, I think it was the August solicits, they even had like, hey, here's the origin of the rogues. I'm like, I kind of need the origin of Flash. I want more Flash. I really like Jeff Lemire. He's one of my favorite writers, but the book needs to pick up the pace. There is one thing I really learned with Cy Spurrier's Flash. It's not really good to have a slow-paced Flash book. That is oxymoron. And when I was a kid, I thought an oxymoron was a kid or a guy who was kind of stupid that had a lot of acne. What I mean is I thought me. But Absolute Flash #3, written by Jeff Lemire, art by Nick Robles, and it's $4.99. And here is the solicit. Wally's back is up against the wall as the rogues bear down on him. Can he evade? And sometimes somebody go to the Comic Book Roundup is where I'm reading it from. And look at how awful some of these things are. They end up with a formatting problem on that site. And when you're reading it, it's can he evade? It's like one word, capture and harness some of his newfound speed, or is he already at the finish line? And you have some timey-wimey stuff going on in the book. You have some kind of mysteries going. But on the cover, you have that little Grodd. He looks cute as hell on Wally's shoulder. And I'm for that. I think that might be pretty darn cool. So we will move on to the next book. And there's a bunch of good books this week. I will mention there's a bunch of good books from DC, even some from Marvel, lo and behold. But the next one I'm going to say, I know everybody loves him. You know him, you love him. It's Mark Waid with Batman and Robin Year 1, #7. And if you're not reading Mark Waid, that's fine. That's fine. And if you want to know what's going on in the book without reading it, you can come and listen to our podcast. But it is written by Mark Waid and Chris Samney on art. $3.99. The general is on the hunt for the man behind the mask and is on the warpath. They don't mean the general that Shaq ends up like getting insurance from, by the way. As the dynamic duo continue to stretch themselves thin and tire themselves out, stopping various threats around Gotham, the general's threat closes in on them. I think that this Batman and Robin Year 1, it gets a little mixed up in my head, first off, with the other Batman and Robin and the Robin Year 1, all that stuff, but also with the current Last Halloween that's telling a really good Batman and Robin story as well. I like this book. I actually really do like it. I do like Chris Samney's art. I think it fits the whole deal, and it makes me laugh because this Dick Grayson, anytime Batman turns to talk to him, and the camera widens to show him, he's doing pirouettes, he's doing backflips. It makes me laugh. It reminds me of myself. So there you go. But I do like that book. The next one, again, we'll just go and get this out of the way right away for those who don't like him. But Batman, Superman World's Finest, #39, dude. It's written by Mark Waid, art by Clayton Henry. It's the We Are Yesterday continuing. I actually like this event, and it's more of a crossover. Everybody wants to say event, but it's more of this crossover deal. I do like it. I think it's cool. I like the focus on Grodd being the one setting it up. I mean, you have a team. It's a Legion of Doom. You have Lex, you have Joker, and you always go to them. I like that it's Grodd that's setting it up, and some of the frustrations he had when he realized that the current continuity of the Legion of Doom, they're all a bunch of nonsense, so he had to go back in time. This cover is really a cover that you may get a kick out of, or you may freak out, because it is the Batman who laughs on it. It has Pariah. It has, Perpetua, Ultraman. It has a bunch of different things, but this is what the solicit says to kind of make this work. The Batman and Superman of yesterday, today, as Gorilla Grodd's vicious temporal onslaught upon the Justice League continues, the Dark Knight and Man of Steel from the time of the world's finest get a horrifying glimpse into their own futures. You would hope that maybe they could avert things, especially like the Batman who laughs and Perpetua. Maybe that would be pretty cool, right? But it says, and the tragedies to come. Maybe you could avert that night terrors. That sucked. It's a minute-by-minute mayhem in the epic new installment of the We Are Yesterday crossover with Justice League Unlimited. So that seems pretty cool. The cover is very, like, wow-esque. You're like, oh, my God, but it's a lot of it is, wow, I don't really miss them. Or, wow, that person again. You even see stuff with the absolute power. Like, all right, there you go. I'm surprised we don't see a glimpse into such great events as, Gotham War. Whew. And what was those others? There's a Joker or something or other. And, Batman looks into the future and they're like, what do you see, Batman? He's like, I see that I lose Gotham like every other weekend. Like, I'm not doing a good job. That's what I think Batman would be saying. I really suck at this. I better get better. But I probably won't because I keep losing Gotham. But we can have that. I'm going to go to the chat a little here. Oh, yeah. Brandon loves us. Stop the wow. I might have to play that later. Diamond David Lee Roth. I did hear Ain't Talking About Love today on the Sirius XM. I was jamming out when I was going to I was getting my medicine listening to Diamond Dave, who definitely needs it himself. H8R. I don't know why, and it's hater. I don't know why I have problems reading that. But Dave says, I enjoyed Rain 2 very much. Yeah, yeah. I read Rain 1 right before Rain 2. I thought the art was great. That story, I don't even know what happened in that. At one point you have, oh look there. I can't even wrap my head around it. Edward did say it was worth it. Fools rush him where angels fear the tread, says Fear Monarch. And that is, he said that I'm telling you, I'm looking at it and I just thought he meant that I'm a hater. I did get in a fight with a guy who said I was, but he was. It's ironic it was called Doomsday Clock and all the titles were so late. I had one of my I think it was my second best tweet. I've talked about this before. My best tweet I ever had, this is solid gold, is when Bendis ended up saying that Tim Drake's name was Drake. And people were losing it. One of my jokes on the podcast was, I expected then that the next week Drake would drop an album, and all of a sudden you'd see trending Drake, and Bendis is like, see, honey, I did it. It's trending, not realizing. But I did say, everybody calm down. People probably already heard this. I'm so proud of it. But I did say that basically you ended up having him decide that Tim Drake was Drake because of the plan then that he can get together with Damian because he's Lil Wayne. And I had a tweet, and boy, that thing took off. That thing skyrocketed. But my other favorite one was the Doomsday Clock, where it was delayed for so long, and then an issue was going to come out, and I ended up tweeting, and it was a bunch of guys, reading comics on one of those girders up above New York City. It's like one of those things where it's like from probably like 38, 39. And I said, here's me reading the last issue when it came out. Yes. Gary Frank didn't like that. He blocked me because of that. Take that, Gary. Get on some sort of scheduling and you won't get the ire of Jimmy Boy. Here, Jim, have you gotten any more advanced copies and read them yet? I have gotten advanced copies. I have not read them yet. I don't like to read too much ahead. I said one of the things that I think of at points is, and this is a conundrum in my head, DC hates me. He hates my guts. I've been told this by such people as Scott Snyder, who tried to get review copies again and said, what did you say to them? And I didn't want to admit that I told them to go F themselves because they ended up, pretty much putting down some of the people, and they got mad at me and started insulting not me, but Eric and some other people. And I said, you can go F yourself. But in the meantime, they also did, and this is no lie, and this is where you have to work and look at some of the other reviewers with a grain of salt. The idea that they said, and they're not going to say, you know how people do these things. You're not going to come right out and say, hey, you better give me $5,000 or I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. You'll say, you know what? Bad things happen to people who don't end up there. You know the play. The idea of, you need insurance about that. And so they say, we're not really, we like your coverage, but it might need to be a little more positive. We're trying to go with a little more positive coverage. And I was playing the game. I'm like, oh, you mean like more previews like that? And like, no. Like when you talk about things, maybe you can put them in a different light. Like, make it seem a little bit. And I'm like, oh, you mean like do interviews? And then the guy's like, no, and finally said, we need you to have these review scores higher, or we're not going to give you the review copies. And I said to the guy, well, it's weird because you ended up offering the review copies because you said you read a review I did personally for Batman and Robin Eternal where I gave something a 3. And you said it was funny and it was whatever. But now you're saying this. But it was because at that point, and this is, a couple of years ago or whatnot, things were looking pretty bad. Books weren't doing great, the reviews, whatever. And so if you had noticed, if you were somebody who went to the Comic Book Roundup, there is a line of demarcation, it seems, the Mendoza line, of where suddenly they decided, unless these people are going to give good reviews, they are not going to get review copies. And they cut off not just us, but a lot of people. And suddenly you went from having on a Wednesday morning or Tuesday at that point, you would end up having 15 reviews for a book down to 5. And that remains because they're only giving things out to people who, what I was told, 8 or above. You can't average less than 8. And they said, you got to do that. And I said, go F yourself. We don't need your review copies. Now, it does help, but screw it. That's and again, then where I was going with this, and all around in my head, I get some people who, lo and behold, they actually like us, and they get review copies, and they'll make copies and send them to us and say, hey, I know you didn't get copies, but hey, and usually it is like, hey, I have Superman Unlimited. I want you to read it. Let me know what you think. Sometimes these people also have websites and podcasts, and I think they're trying to get some inside info from me, but I end up getting them, and then I think, wait a minute. Screw DC. There's no embargo if you don't get review copies, right? So I think, screw it. I'm going to put a review up 2 weeks ahead of time. I'm going to put it up because screw it. I don't have to follow an embargo. But then I think, did anybody here want to read a review and get it spoiled 2 weeks before? Because I don't think they would. So I don't do it, not because of DC. I do it because of everybody else. I don't want to ruin things, and then things get lost in the shuffle too. And also, I will say straight up, never once in it did cross my mind, but it didn't cross my mind to say, hey, screw them, I'm going to give everything a 1 just to mess with them. Never would do that, because that's the whole thing. I mean, all of this leads to me saying, integrity is job 1, is what you say. But we're going to get back to the solicit side. This is going to be a hoot tonight. I still have like 80 things to edit as well, but I am looking forward to seeing how this We Are Yesterday continues on. I think we're done with the Mark Waid stuff, so we will continue with a book that I've really been enjoying, DC Sonic the Hedgehog #3, Ian Flynn writing, Adam Bryce Thomas on art. It is $3.99. The Justice League is gone. Who will protect the Earth and beyond from the might of supervillains on the prowl? Enter Sonic the Hedgehog and his friends to pick up the slack. Watch as Sega's iconic characters don the costumes of DC Comics' first find. Oh my God, these things, every word is pressed. This is worse than backwards word magic. Finest and take on the greatest foes. Please, somebody go and look at the comic roundup for next week. Look at the DC stuff, including this one, and please tell somebody that I'm not just insane, that this is nonsense. I think that when you do a solicit for Sonic, you have to mention, like, don't say, they're on the prowl. You have to say, fast things, really speedy stuff and whatnot. But I really like the book. I think it's really good. It's more, if you're wondering, and if you haven't been reading it, it's way more of a Sonic book than a DC book. Instead, it shocked me. I thought this was going to be, okay, Justice League. And yeah, Sonic's joining in. It's more of Sonic, and then the Justice League kind of happened to get involved. So, and I really like that. And I love the combo Shadow and Batman. Love Tails. Always loved Tails. All that stuff going on. Amy and things like that. And Wonder Woman having to wait to have her charge her flying car. Yeah, she should have done that earlier. But, I really do like that book. The next one is probably the big book for the week. And people don't like Dan Slott. I've talked about this already. And already, I mean, you want to see the deal. There's already a review for this book. It hasn't come out. You did have the preview. You ended up having the deal. And this is the best, too. You end up having this guy have a 1 out of 10 review. The book isn't out. If you want to see what I do then, because I saw that, I'm not hiding. I don't have a burner account. I got on the thing and told him, the guy, you're a joke. You're a joke. And then this other guy said, you're a piece of crap. I don't know if he meant me. And then somebody said, shut up, Grandpa. You like Ethan Van Sciver, bro, which that's definitely not me, but who knows? But this guy, he's a piece of crap. That's what he is. You don't, that's as they call bad faith right there. You just wait till the book comes out before you're going to review it, you moron. But in the meantime, this book is, I think, the big book. I think it's a big book this week, especially from DC. People don't like Dan Slott. I have to remind them that there are a lot of reasons not to like the guy, but there are a lot worse reasons that other people, and I see people defending people that have done more than just being a jerk online. He really is just an old curmudgeon. And I said the difference between him and Rob Liefeld online is that Rob Liefeld has personality to his curmudgeonness. Dan Slott just is kind of there yelling and screaming. And Dan Slott is an easy target. He's an easy target that people like to rail into. But I liked the Superboy book. I've liked a lot of things that he's done. And I always give people a chance. And somebody like Jason Aaron, I didn't think that Batman Offworld was going to be anything. One of my favorite books of the last couple of years. So you have Superman Unlimited, #1, written by Dan Slott, art by Raphael Albuquerque, $4.99. It is the summer of Superman heats up with a brand new ongoing series taking the DCU by storm when an asteroid the size of Metropolis hurtles toward collision with planet Earth. The Justice League dispatches Superman to avert the crisis. I don't know, why does it seem like that's not that big? I don't know. How much burns up in entry? Like, does it come down and it's like the comet in The Simpsons where it's like this little pebble that just bounces there with a little chihuahua next to it? Maybe. But a sinister threat lurks within that will change the world like never before, and this dangerous glows green. This danger glows green. The last son of Krypton must risk everything to save his adopted home, the very home which now tries to kill him from complete destruction. The Man of Steel is poised to fly like never before in this new Cornerstone series, brought to life by the dazzling DC debut. They're even playing that whole deal like at Marvel there. Written by Dan Slott, the superior Spider-Man, Spider-Boy too, and renowned artist Raphael Albuquerque, all-star Batman. So there you go. Somebody's already got a 1 out of 10 user review. So there you go. I don't trust that guy. We'll move on to, we have 2 more, I think, that we will feature here from DC. The next one's New Gods #6. Ram V, Felipe Andrade, and Evan Cagle. It's $3.99, and I would love to say, boy, I hope that this doesn't say this whole issue is about the lore of New Genesis and Apocalypse. I kind of want to see what's going on with Mr. Miracle, Barda, and Orion, and that new God baby. I already read the solicit at the end of last week's podcast, and I know that what it says is all about the lore, something that I explained of when I went into this New Gods book. I was interested because it's Ram V. While I have gotten in fights with Ram V, that doesn't mean I don't like Ram V, and I think Ram V's indie stuff is great, and I thought, just like Resurrection Man, this New Gods sounds like a Ram V book. I just hope he doesn't Ram V it up too much. And then you got this great first issue. I still like the book, but that first issue, I was like, holy crap. Like, this doesn't feel like it's Ram V doing his normal thing. He's actually like really having fun with this story. And then it started creeping in. And now we have a Ram V issue because in the wake of the Nectari invasion of New Genesis, the hero is laid to rest. Black Racer, speeding through deep space, must deliver his fallen comrade back to the source. Bear witness to a cosmos-spanning epic that examines the very nature of life, death, and everything in between. In this special issue, it's the 6th issue. We don't need really a special issue at this point. That reunites the all-star team of Ram V and Felipe Andrade, who did Rare Flavors and also the Layla Starr book, which is one of my favorite books of the last decade. It's great. That book is really good. So I'm looking forward to that. The thing, though, is I was going to say, again, you have to forgive me tonight and every night. Going into the New Gods book, I said I didn't think, oh, what I want from this New Gods book is lore. Lo and behold, if I wanted New Genesis and Apocalyptian lore, I can go some places and read that already. And I haven't because I'm not real interested. That is just me, but I'm not interested in that at all. I'm in the here and now, and I want to see the story. And it seems like what happens a lot of times with Ram V, especially at DC, it happened, I think, in Detective Comics, and why that kind of didn't work for me right away was that he has these main characters, the characters that you end up, okay, yeah, this is cool. I want to see these. And he's like, yeah, I'm not real interested in that. I'm interested in this stuff that I can do and do the things that I like to do. And again, I said, when me and him, I ended up having a review for Detective Comics, and he kind of threw me under the bus online and kind of wanted to use me as an example of people who are idiots, I guess. And I think I said right away, you don't need to do that. People already know it. I'm an idiot. But I said in my review that Ram V was getting a little too off the rails. It was very confusing. The story wasn't coming together. This was at the beginning. And he basically said to me, I've talked about this before, but he said, I don't write. And I said, I think you're going to lose some readers. People want to get involved. People seem to be excited, but you're getting away from Batman. You're getting away from a lot of things. And he said, I don't care about the reader. I don't write things for an audience. I write them for me. And then said, that's what everybody does. Writers, right? They're very, you have to be very selfish. You have to be interested. And I'm like, the really great writers, though, manage to do both. They end up writing stuff that they want to write, but do it in a way that can be grabbed, or else you never hear about them. They end up where you have to sell, you have to do that. It's the same thing. You can go and everybody can tell me the one band that they knew that nobody knows, and it's because they're probably very quirky and do their own thing. But isn't it better to combine everything and be really great, but also really good? And so we kind of got in that argument, but that's how he writes. And it sometimes, makes me run into a brick wall because I need something to keep my attention. And that's a lot of things you need to do there. Whew, should I read Wonder Woman Solicit? I'm not looking forward to it. I don't like the book at all. I do like talking with Jared from Comics League. He does not like the Tom King. I mean, it's one of those things when Eric, if you have listened to the podcast, Eric leaves the podcast. So I get a bunch of people to do stuff with me. And lo and behold, some of them, I realize that I'm not the biggest hater of some things, but I still am. I'll still go with that. I'm looking in the Slack right now real quick, out of the Slack, in the chat real quick before we go on. I want to see if somebody says, yeah, read the Wonder Woman Solicit, that I will. But if not, we will skip to the last one that I will read. Jack says, would love to see Batman look into the future and see how much Spider-Man sucks. That'd be great. He looks and he's like, Nick Lowe still? Holy shit, they don't learn. That's the thing. You're supposed to learn from the past, but maybe we can learn from the future. I don't know. Matt says, hello, Jim Bob. I'm telling you, I've never been called in my life Jim Bob, but Jimbo was always the deal. It was the worst. Though I could reveal what my nickname in sports was, which is not the greatest. It reminds me a little of Lenny Dykstra Nails, but it was Dirt. That in baseball especially, my nickname was Dirt because I was a fast guy. I was a leadoff hitter, and I would if I was stealing a base, I was going head first like Ricky Henderson, and I was just completely covered in dirt constantly. Looked like Pigpen. You have Dan Slott, Shea Carter's son there. I was told one bit of advice in Yankee Stadium years back that a guy, while I was going to the bathroom, very, very nervous as a young kid in Yankee Stadium by myself, he said, if you shake it more than once, you're playing with it. And I just ran out. I didn't know what to say. So I got upset. That was the advice. I'm also looking at this here. I finally got my radio in my car replaced. I can listen to my music again, says Fear Monarch. That's good. Righteous Lot says One World Under God. Yeah, I actually said in our podcast, I did call it on the title One World Under Gloom. That's what I called. And I'm like, I think that I'm clever. I'm like, that's not that clever. It's not that clever at all. But I like putting it. Mark is entitled to his opinions, and I'm entitled to ignore them and enjoy his comics, says Brandon. Yeah, but people have, and Brandon says, Jim, have you gotten any more advanced copies? But again, Mark Waid has said some really bad things that offended people, and he's done some really mean things. And I usually don't like bullies and people like that, but you're at a deal where, again, I'm not even thinking that I'm separating the deal. I review comics. I end up doing it. It's kind of a job, but it ends up feeling like it a lot. So I just go at that route. If I worked for the Rolling Stone magazine back in the day and I had to interview AC/DC, I may think that they're jerks, but I'm still going to interview AC/DC. I'm still going to review the albums and whatnot. And there you go. Brandon said, didn't Batman fall asleep for a few weeks after Deadman used his body and woke up into Gotham? Yeah. After Night Terrors, he fell asleep for I believe it might have been 2 months, they said. It was a while. The guy doesn't sleep until he does. And then he does. He falls asleep a lot. Didn't bet, and they called Gabe sus, and I saw red, says Fearmeyer. It's true. I think that was a Warrant song back in the day. And Brendan says, maybe that can work for me in One World Under Doom. That story is not great. Fearmonic said, take them down to Staples and print up some copies for 30 cents a page. And then, Matt's joining us. We have everybody get down to the deal. I love New Gods, but each issue should come with a free pillow, says Edward. And Dan says, hasn't Slott said Spider-Boy has always been Peter's sidekick? he has just been so secretive. No, that's not what he said. What he said was that, and what the story is based on, that because of the web of life, he ended up getting forgotten by anyone. He got taken out of the timeline, that he was his sidekick in the past. Everybody forgot about it. It wasn't because he was secretive. It was because he got taken out of the timeline. So when he came back, it took a while too. It was like halfway through this series where they ended up fixing that. And even his mother didn't remember him. And they end up where, boom, Bailey, who's Spider-Boy, he comes in. And I will, I'll challenge some people. If you end up not thinking, hey, Spider-Boy's bullshit. Yeah, and I know, again, I'm not here to say, oh, you jerks, you don't like that. If you're hateful, I might get mad, right? But just Dan asking and saying, check it out. Because I'm on record. I had a video on the channel when I said, why do we need this? We don't need this. This is ridiculous. And it's forced and stupid. And then end up reading it. And I'm like, you know what? This, and in a landscape where, and I think most everybody here, especially if you're a Marvel fan, you know that Marvel tends to, well, DC does it too, because they tried to do it with Naomi and even Yara Flor, but they try to elevate characters before they're ready. They don't let characters develop, or characters that have been around. They certainly say, okay, Miss Marvel, we're going to make you the biggest thing ever. And they try to force it, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. I was afraid that was going to happen. A lot of people were afraid that Bailey was going to end up in a bunch of books, and here we go. He's going to replace Spider-Man, and he's this and that, whatever. And then when you read it, you realize, number one, that's not happening, and it didn't happen. We saw him show up in a couple little things, one page, a scene, but didn't happen. And in the meantime, Bailey is a character that is, I try to say it, but it's like not damaged, but he's not perfect. It's one of the better written young characters playing out the idea is, if you were 8 or 9 and became a superhero, what would you act like? And he does it. At one point, he thinks he needs money, so he thinks he could start charging old ladies because he's waiting to stop, purse snatchers, and says, hey, I really could use $10. And he doesn't think anything of it because he doesn't really have anything. Yeah, Peter mentors him, but he's also the idea he doesn't have web shooters, because Peter thinks that that's not something he should have, and he's mad about that. Then he teams up with Daredevil, and but everybody's trying to help him out, but they're always looking out for him, and he's not supposed to get involved with, big tier villains. And lo and behold, he gets involved in the thing with Bullseye and his nemesis, who ends up being Spider-Girl, but a Spider-Girl that's more of taunting Bailey, not just saying, hey, and I'm going to do this. And I'm telling you, if you don't think you'll like it, you may not love it, but I think you'd be pleasantly surprised that it's not horrible. I didn't think I'd like it, and I started really, really liking it. But by the end, and Brandon says, cannot deny, Spider-Boy is very fun. It was a good series. I'll ask Brandon, because I really liked the series. At one point, I said, I think Spider-Boy is my favorite book, but I don't mind that it's ending. It's at a point where, yeah, I can see it. It ends. Maybe we'll get another series, a mini 2 years from now. 3 years from now. I don't think that we need Bailey, but I did really like him. And I hope that we see him again, but I don't need him pushed in any sort of way. I think that we got a pretty good series out of it. Edward also says, again, he said the pillow. You should get a free pillow. That is like, it's like, I'm reading Ambien at points. When you have the lore, my eyes glaze over. I'm like, holy crap. Fear Monarch says Rare Flavors is finally getting a deluxe near the end of the year. I think it's going to win the Eisner in the category. Is it just series? I think that it's going to win the Eisner, and I hope to God that Tom King doesn't. But, I mean, that guy has too many. The idea of the awards he gets, he's like, he could be looked at as the Beatles of the comic world. And I don't like that, because I like the Beatles. I don't like Tom King. But I hope that it does win an Eisner. I think it deserves it. And then you have Fear Monarch says, you tell me the average person ain't heard of there's one little tricks point never. Maybe. Cannot deny that Spider-Boy is very fun. Hello, Jimbo. See there, Matt got it right. At least he didn't say hello, dirt. I don't need that. Also, if you would want a visual, at one point, playing baseball. I look like, and this, you can look this up, but I look like a combination at one point. I do say, I said this before and everybody gives me shit, but legit people used to say, I had the look of a combination of Andre Agassi and Chris Sabo from the Reds, because I had these rec spec things on. Pretty cool. And when you wear those in hockey, you look like a Terminator. That was pretty cool. Fearmonic said, I found a foil issue in a dollar bin. It's a thing. I've read worse, but it's nothing I'd put on a pull list. Okay. I'm thinking maybe that was the Spider Boy. It's okay. It's not horrible. It was fine. I'm telling you, even in the things, if you do listen and watch Wes at Thinking Critical, me and him have a show on his Patreon that we talk about books. And in fact, he's off the next couple of weeks. I don't have to do that show with him. I was thinking of maybe popping in and doing that sort of show myself here on YouTube, where I just kind of casually go through most of the books, because I'm so used to the schedule that I may just do that and maybe people will join. I don't know. But he even started liking Spider-Boy a bit. He even admitted, he's like, you know what? It's not that bad. So it's not. It's okay. And says, Brandon said, he could be really good if he pops in and out of Spider-Man books every now and again. I think that's how I would like it. All of a sudden, you just kind of catch up with him at points and whatnot. Dan says, been ordering it for a couple of boys who have been buying it monthly at the shop but haven't read it. It's pretty good. And I think it's one of those, again, if you're a kid, especially, it's not dumbing it down for you. It's actually treating Bailey as like a real kid. I thought it was pretty good. He says, I don't trust the writer of ASM to write the character of Bailey when he can barely wrap his head around Spider-Man. Joe Kelly would have, I don't even know what he'd have Bailey be doing. Probably like show up and he'd have like a Volkswagen deal like Mike D from the Beastie Boys. Yo, 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 what's up? He's the word. Hello, Homer. Look, all stuff. Yes, there you go. And Edward says, I didn't read Spider-Boy, but similar thought. You and Gray got me reading Usagi Yojimbo, the book I didn't know I needed. That book is great. If you're, I think that most people, you'll never, I don't think, and I'll venture to say this, I usually don't try to talk for everybody. I don't think you can find somebody who, now I'm hoping that Dan doesn't say it. No, there you go. That. And I'll ask Dan, because he says he's been reading Usagi Yojimbo for years. I don't think I've ever heard somebody badmouth that book. I've never heard anybody. I've heard, like, again, when I think about it, a lot of times I think of TMNT. And you've had some crossover. But when TMNT first started the Mirage stuff, it was a little rough. Like, if people end up talking like, hey, you got to read the Mirage stuff, but just go to City on Fire, City at War, whatever the hell it's called. But it's rough. There's some art that's great, all these stories. I've never heard anybody say something bad about Usagi Yojimbo. And me and Gray are doing a podcast on the Patreon, and we'll be doing it this week too, and I can't wait. The deal is like from the get-go, from the first short story, it was great. I mean, it doesn't feel like Stan Sakai ever had any sort of learning curve. He just did right out of the gate. It's awesome. Some of these stories at the beginning, too, that they collected, they come out months, if not years apart. And it's like, this is awesome. Introducing characters immediately that become mainstays. It's just so good. I can't say enough about it. And I love talking with Gray about it. Gray is awesome. And I love talking with Gray about a bunch of things. And just to shout out anybody that I've been talking to, or even talking in the live stream, the comments, it's so much fun, and everybody's been so cool. And Fearmonic said a skateboard in frame with some Janko jeans. He'd be like slugging back some Fago. Yo, where's the Insane Clown Posse at? You'd have all this bullshit. Oh, it'd be the worst. He definitely would be Poochie. He'd come in like that. And yeah, Fearmonic says since 7th grade. Matt says, I've never understood the slot hate. He's defending himself. He's got that right. It's a little different, Matt. It's beyond. It goes from the idea of, I think that he took to the offense. You know, it's like, hey, people are ripping into me. I'm going to defend myself. But hey, they rip into me so much, I'm going to start ripping into them before they rip into me. And you could have, at this point, if he played it right, he could have really been a really sympathetic character that you would have had people actually buy his books because they would think he's being treated poorly. But he likes to dish out like he gets and stuff, and that's fine. But you do end up where sometimes people just say, hey, I haven't been reading this. What's going on in it? And he'll go on the attack. Not quite like T. Franklin. That's the best. If you want to see somebody lose their mind online, T. Franklin on Twitter, you say to her, "Oh my God, that is the best story I've ever read from Harley, and you wrote it. You're so great. What are you doing next?" "Don't you try to pin me down, you jerk." She flips out. She completely goes berserk on people who have given her applause. They're giving her the flowers. She don't like it. She gets all upset. But I will read one last thing before I go back to the solicits, not the solicits, the previous. Dan does says, "I've been reading Usagi-yo since I was around 10 years old in the 1983 range. Currently digging the new Thousand Plums tale. Sakai still going strong after 40 years. And Dan, we're both old, is what I'm going to tell you. At that point in 1983, I'm trying to think. Number one, that I was really into in 83. I was really into Don Mattingly. He was coming on the scene. Pretty cool. I was also really into, I hated Wayne Gretzky with a passion because he wasn't on the team I liked, and I was playing a lot of sports. Playing a lot of tennis at that point, too. Yeah, Brandon said it's not good to insult the customers. No. Fear Monarch also says this will be it. I didn't like Slot claiming he was some authority on She-Hulk. His run was mid. He's just the top of pile of mid runs, trying to top Burn. And a lot of people will point to his run being great, but then he does like to not defend his She-Hulk run, but to kind of go like, "See, everything I said is in that show." And you're like, "Yeah, I heard that show wasn't great." Then you get blocked. I didn't watch the show. I don't watch TV. I'd like to say, I always say this, I'd like to be fancy and it was funny at one point, and I think that Dan is one to say because he's a little older, right? When it was the idea of saying, I don't watch TV, but I do watch the History Channel because that was kind of fancy. It's stop being fancy. Later, then you say, I don't watch a lot of TV. I watch the History Channel. Like, oh, you're one of those nuts. Oh, yes, indeed. But we will go back to some things. And as I was talking, I ended up, my thumb hit the side of my mouse and I went off of the chat. But here we go with the previews. Back to the previews, everybody. Here we go. How long have we been going so far? 51 minutes. We did 4 previews. We'll do Wonder Woman. Why not? Wonder Woman number 21. It's written by Tom King, art by Gilliam March, because we have this side little story of Detective on Olympus. $4.99. Fury of the Gods. As Batman gets closer to solving the case of Ares' murder, disaster strikes in the form of a bolt of lightning. I just want to remind people that's what happened in the last issue, not this one. Tom King's solicits get a little wonky. He likes to change things. With the Cape Crusader sideline, can the Amazon princess uncover the truth? I think Ares played it all up. He wants people to feel bad for him. That's what I think. I really thought when I first saw it, when Hippolyta's like, yeah, Jen got drunk and hooked up and I don't know what happened. I really thought it was Steve Trevor. I thought that she had sex with Steve Trevor and had to tell Diana. Now there's a story. That sounds like a lot of drama going on up there on Olympus. And those gods, they be crazy, as they say. The last solicit from DC. Maybe I'll read it backwards for Edward, but it is Zatana. Zatana number 4. Written and art by Jamal Campbell. The art is great. But as a writer, Jamal Campbell is a pretty damn good artist. It's $3.99. The outlook is grim. After being dealt a devastating defeat at the hands of the Lady White and the Brother Knight, Zatana struggles with her magic. Thanks to the cursed sword, or the cursed sword embedded in her, both her body and mind are constantly under attack. It's a lot of stuff that you get told, and you're like, I know that is happening, but it's not really doing much. With her young crewmate, Adam, suffering a fate worse than death, and I mean, who could ever sit still when Adam is having bad things happen to him? And Blue Devil missing, and Blue Devil can't catch a break. That guy, he was a statue for a while. She must persist and push and persist to save her allies. No one else gets hurt because of her. No one. I'm not thinking anybody's getting hurt because of her, but we'll see. We'll get a lot. He likes that backwards word magic, and I will give you all a little tip. Edward, especially if you're going to be writing Zatana, what they should do from now on. I know the backwards word magic is a thing. There's a lot of things that are things. We get it, right? But there's nobody who sat down and come up with exact rules for it. Sometimes you read right to left to right. Who knows? Manga, not manga, nonsense. What they should do is you get the backwards word magic in a bubble, fade that out a bit, and then over top it, write it normal in like a font that's colorful that you can see it. Make it look magical, but I can read it. And I can go and say, okay, because I'm telling you, you might as well be writing in Swahili. I have no idea. If it's available, please, somebody get that Rosetta Stone, online crazy learn your language deal, and please send me the one with backwards word magic, because I look at it and the things that I come up with are so wacky, and then it just makes me feel stupid, and then I get frustrated, and then I get mad. And that's what happens. His backwards word magic leads to hate. Yoda said it. I didn't. And I agree with Yoda. Yoda's always right, hashtag. So, yeah, it drives me nuts. And Joseph Wolf says there's a great country song called Jim Bob. There you go. I would think that you say this. Jim Bob would be a pretty good, first off, that's a great country name for a sus record song, but it also could be a song as well. You just have to think of what he's bobbing for, and then it works. You start from, it's like a mystery. You start at the chorus and you work your way backwards. And Fear Monarch said, didn't miss anything. Sounds like a King story is what that Wonder Woman does. That's true. The outlook is grim. No, that's a note from editorial on it being an ongoing. That is true. They're like, yeah, that's just anything he does. Wonder Woman needs to call Clark for the number to get the orphanage he left his cousin in. That stupid baby needs to go. Yeah, this week, I messed up. I ended up where we had some problems at the house. Me and Stork ended up doing our Black Sad review. We started the Arctic, is it the Arctic? I want to call it the Arctic Incident, but it's not. But it's the second volume of Black Sad for a book of the month. Then we took a break and I said, hey, we'll get back. And we're doing the origin story of Superboy. Superboy's first appearance, origin story. It's a lot different. And it's funny because then we realized like, oh, he actually was in an orphanage for a while too, for quite some time. And I think that he thought, well, I had to suffer through that. So Kara's going right there too. But you have some funny things in that, including one panel that looks like Pa Ken is Geppetto and Superboy is Pinocchio. He's a real boy. I know he's yelling, but we didn't get to it because I ended up where I did leave Stork hanging and I felt bad all day. But I'll try to get that. I might have Jason talk to me about it. But could Batman help solve the mystery of the Amazon who is on the run for killing that guy in the bar? No, nobody's solving that. Can we have the mystery of when the Amazons were fugitives and they were being hunted down until they weren't? There you go. And also, if you read solicits for August, Wonder Woman's a fugitive again. Guy just completely gave up on the plot, said Brandon. It's true. He does that all the time. I said I've argued with people about Tom King's writing, and one of the things, the misery gets you. But what really gets me is everything is pushed to be a wow moment. When the wow moment happens, that is shoved aside, and then you'll even have things go against it. When you ended up having Catwoman and Batman going through the desert where they were going to go and face Talia. That's where you have Catwoman pick up a sword for the first time and defeat one of the best swordsmen in the world, Talia. But they go, and I keep forgetting the name of the whatever was the nation that she was supposedly in for a whole issue. If we go there, we can't get out. Oh, yeah. Nobody is allowed out. When you go there, you're not allowed out. In fact, when they went in, Superman flew in. Damian was sitting at the doorstep of this nation deal. And Superman said, if Batman and Catwoman come out, I'm going to be forced to take them down because the UN says that nobody who goes in can come out. And then Catwoman fights Talia and they just leave. They just walk out the door. Never mention again that you're not allowed to leave. They just walk out. Also, like the crazy things of when you see that Batman, who should know better, just rides a horse to its death. It just falls over dead because they ran it through the desert. But then when they leave, never mention that the couple horses they have won't make it. They just leave. I said one of the things in the Cold Days when you ended up having, I think it was still the Cold Days, but when Batman went to get KG Beast because he ended up shooting Dick Grayson, which I had a pretty good parody song to You Gave Love a Bad Name by Bon Jovi. But in the meantime, you kept being told, this is such a bad area, Siberia. Nobody can ever get in or out. There's no equipment. The bat planes, Batman tried to get there and ditched like 17 bat planes because they couldn't function. But then when he's done, supposedly maybe killing Bane, he walked out. And it says like he walked this many. I remember doing the deal. He walked 500 miles out of Siberia where we were told nobody could live. And then what happened with Bane or KG Beast? They said that at the hut right next to where they were, they didn't realize there was another like house with a bunch of operatives there watching this all, videotaping it, and they ended up calling in a plane and getting KG Beast out. You said that the bat plane couldn't get there. Ay, ay, ay. I get so mad. Yikes. And you have Lane says, how you doing? I'm having problems, Lane. This is what I'm doing. JK says, I'm so dyslexic. So backwards writing looks relatively normal to me. It doesn't look normal to me. My mind starts swimming. And then I feel like a jerk. And yeah, he does really things. Just give us a little editor's note and what it means on the bottom or appendix. No, what I'm saying too is though, I thought that it's kind of the play that I would like the backwards word magic. I think that somebody like Gene Wen Yang came up with a really cool idea. He had a book. He had the Kong Keenan, the new Superman. And in that book, a lot of people were going to be speaking Mandarin. They're going to be speaking, different languages. And so I think it was Mandarin. But he said, every time it's in green, it's Mandarin. Fine. There you go. I forget what color, but it was a different color for when they were speaking Mandarin. You just go and you're like, okay, I see that it's accurate. Doesn't do anything for me either way. But you end up like, okay, that works. That works. I just think that you can make it look very magical. You can end up having some crazy, font that you use or whatever. Just make it so I could read it. Make it, and you better never, ever put something very important in backwards word magic because people are going to miss out on it. Edward says, every time you talk Zatana, an ad pops up. I know you're doing it on purpose. I'm telling you, at one point, Gray said about the ad, I don't even know how to work some of these things. They end up being like when you just set it up and it's like, we'll take care of that for you. I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't know. Fear Monarch says it builds character. Catwoman beating Talia was so it made no sense. Then she took out flashes. Then Harley was a brain surgeon. Remember, here's where you want to talk again. We could just go on and on about this. You want to hear a plot that was left behind? Remember in the Everyone Loves Ivy arc? You had the kid that couldn't eat vegetables. That was such a big thing until what happened to that kid? All of a sudden it was like, hey, he's gone. Oh, well, he's done. And yeah, you walk 500 more just to fall down at Gotham's door. That's it. He will walk 500. We could just do all that. Gene's last arc on the old Batman Superman book was bonkers. It was. That was really crazy. I'm telling you, I see that Ken Nerd. I think you're messing with me. I think JK's completely messing. I'm telling you, I look at these things. I'm like, that's not words. That's weird. But we'll get back to things. That was the last of the DC. We're going to move on to the Marvel side of things. I think a lot of people have been waiting for this book. It's a book that, it's Amazing Spider-Man. You thought I was going to say The Thing. It's Amazing Spider-Man number 4, Joe Kelly, Pepe Larraz, $4.99. The cause of Spider-Man's and Rhino's rampages. We know what it is. And the mastermind behind it is revealed. It's the soda pops. It is. The reason for it is very unclear. Why would you come up with an hallucinogenic deal that you put in soda pop, but then are like, oh no, Rhino did this, and then we'll inject. Makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. Because when it comes down, and I talked about it in our review, if you're going to go through the problem or the troubles, and I don't like saying soda pop. I'm not from the 1950s or Chicago. I'm from the Philadelphia area. We say soda. But you end up making the soda Why don't the real evil plan should be we want to make a lot of money making the soda. Instead, they're doing stuff with it and going on. I'm like, why are you doing this? What is the idea of it? Why are you trying to do it? Because it doesn't make any damn sense. But in the meantime, you get to see Itsy Bitsy pretty much look like a predator. So wait till you see that. Gray said that Itsy Bitsy was kind of sexy. Not anymore. Itsy Bitsy had some problems. Not going up my spout. But yeah, I will say, I'm not going to spoil anything. Maybe I did already, but I'm not going to spoil the deal. But I will say that I think this issue isn't bad. If you've been waiting for that issue, you're like, okay, I see. What I think and what I said in the review is they got to get out of this stupid story with the soda and go forward. There's some okay parts of this. And so, and there's actually one, please, everybody, when you read this issue, if you are, go to the letters page immediately and read that Nick Lowe says that he cried like 6 times while he was putting this one together. When he read the script, he cried. When he saw the pencils, he cried. When he saw all the people yelling at him, hating Paul, he might have cried. He goes on, he's like, and then the colors came in and I cried. I'm like, do you stop crying, dude? Like, what's going on? Oh, yeah. But I think it's getting a little bit better. Not great, but a little bit better. We will move on to a book that I'll be talking with Gray about tomorrow. It is The Incredible Hulk, number 25. This is the big, it was pushed last issue. Thor showed up and said, what you be doing? And that is my Asgardian accent. Philip Kennedy Johnson writing, Nick Klein on art, which is always awesome. $4.99. The Incredible Hulk versus the Mighty Thor. Not the Immortal Thor, the Mighty Thor. Bruce Banner and Charlie Search. And that's the thing. Did anybody in their right mind think that at issue 25 we'd still be dealing with Charlie? I didn't. Bruce Banner and Charlie's search for Doctor Strange now points toward Asgard. But when the gateway opens, the way is blocked by Odin's son. It kind of didn't feel like that. What it felt like was they kind of like, oh no, this whole dupe that we got at the Sanctum Sanctorum ends up stopping because, oh no, Thor showed up and he's pissed. But who recognizes Charlie as a vessel for an ancient and powerful enemy. Don't miss this oversized, the most epic rematch in Marvel history. I'm looking forward to the art. That's going to look great. It's going to be so cool. And you even have him swinging and spinning that hammer. Mjolnir just spinning it around like it's nobody's business. Probably like would be a good fan too, like on a hot day. Thor's just doing that for you. Like, thanks a lot, buddy. But Charlie, the book runs through Charlie. It doesn't run through the Hulk. And that's kind of what bothers me a bit about it. But it's still cool. And I do like Charlie. I just think Charlie's story should have ended like, well, what are we at? 25? It should have ended maybe like 20 issues ago. You should have gotten that done, have her pop in and out. I mean, the idea that people were worried that Spider-Boy was going to dominate things, I never would have thought that this girl would be the main focus of a Hulk book, but it's what it is. And I do still like it. I think it's one of the more consistent books at Marvel. But speaking of which, too, I don't know where it's going to go up, but me and Wes ended up doing a couple videos together before he went to Dallas, and they were the state of DC Comics, the state of Marvel Comics, and the state of indie comics. And when we got to the Marvel deal, I ended up saying, in my mind, that there's not a lot of books at Marvel that you can straight up say it's the greatest, it's the best book out at comics right now. Go buy it, you'll love it. Every book has these little asterisks. I've said it on my stuff as well. The idea that you say, well, you know, it's always that but, you know, Incredible Hulk, that's one of Marvel's best books, but the pacing's a little slow, and it deals with this girl, and Nick Klein is not always on it, and you end up get Danny Earls. That's great. Like, there's always that little bit. You could say Moon Knight, which we'll have a solicit in a minute. The idea, oh, Jed McKay's Moon Knight's really cool, but they ended up killing him at one point. You end up having the Hood, and then you did this, but it came back good. Like, and then you could even say Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimate Spider-Man's probably the most popular and best book at Marvel, though I do think that people forget one other book that I'll mention that people keep talking about as well. But they end up like Ultimate, but you don't get a lot of Spider-Man, and it's slow-paced, and it's really setting up to get to the maker. If you're not interested, there's always that but. But I think that the book that people forget about, that I have not heard anybody say is bad, they love it. It doesn't come out very consistently, but it is that Aliens versus Avengers by Jonathan Hickman. I'm not a huge Alien guy, but I know that most people reading that tell me it's incredible. And I think it's Ribick's art, Saad Ribick, and the art looks great as well. But a lot of people point to that as being one of the better books at Marvel. But again, my butt there is, but I'm not really that big of an Alien fan, so it doesn't really hit with me too much. But we'll move on to the next solicit. I was going to joke and read Iron Man, but nobody's reading Iron Man, so why would I read the solicit, right? You know what I'm saying? Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu, number 8. Last issue was good, and I caught up. I had dropped the book once Moon Knight died. And I tried to stick with it, but that was when each issue of that part of the 3-parter deal that we have now was kind of, hey, all the people that know Mark are going for therapy. And I'm like, yeah, I don't need that. But getting back, Gray asked me to read it. He said he really liked the Fist of Khonshu. And I said, okay, I'll read it. And I really liked it. And last issue, especially with 8-Ball and them doing their deal, was really, really fun. We'll see. With this one, it's Jed MacKay and Dev Pramanik on art, $3.99. Carver earns her cut and her namesake, wielding and it says wielding and sword from Vandeheim and with an axe to grind. Achilles Fairchild's right-hand woman and most dangerous enforcer, Carver, has been ordered to kill Moon Knight. I am lost. Is this in backwards word magic? Moon Knight's already gotten stomped by Fairchild himself and only lived by the grace of his god Khonshu. But the moon god's patience is wearing thin, and Carver's blade craves blood. I do think that Jed MacKay is really bad at doing villains. And even so, I've talked with people about this, and when they end up saying, no way, Zodiac was pretty cool if that wasn't his. that was already a character. When he ends up, I said, one of the things that really made me roll my eyes is when in the first run of Moon Knight that everybody loved, and I'm saying the first volume, whatever you would call it, in his run, you ended up having vampire Ponzi scheme that was solved by putting the holy water in the sprinklers and setting them off. I'm like, yeah, this is bullshit, but the characters are good. And I think that Jed MacKay is more of a smaller, quirky character guy than what he ended up being pushed as running events, doing Avengers, X-Men. I don't think that, I'm not saying he's not good enough to do that. I don't think it fits his style. I think that when they have him, lightning in a bottle, people saying it's one of their favorite Moon Knight runs of all time, I think you have to sit there and evaluate that. Don't say, well, he's good at Moon Knight, so put him on Avengers. He's good at Moon Knight, so make him an event guy. He's good at Moon Knight. What makes it good? It's a quirky character that has quirky side characters in a very, not street level story, because it is Moon Knight, but more of a personal story that runs through the characters in a personal way and their connection to Mark. I think I said Matt earlier, but Mark. That's not what you're going to have with the Avengers. There's too many big characters. There's too many main characters. X-Men, too many big and main characters. And again, he's not great at villains, but in Moon Knight it worked because it's not really about the villains a lot of times. In Moon Knight, it's about how the team's going and the Midnight Mission and things like that. And I think that they kind of lost a little bit of the focus. They lost the narrative a bit of what I think Jed MacKay is good at. And they try, and it's a shame, because I wish that all those other things were great, especially Blood Hunt. That would have been awesome. Then we would have been set. You know, oh my God, they finally got a guy who did an event that I like. Let's go forward with this guy. And I just think that they elevated him a little bit too much past what he's good at, is how I'll explain it. Though I still think, I've said, this Fist of Khonshu I think is really good. I really enjoyed that last issue. It was funny, but it was funny, but what he does with these characters and what he did with 8-Ball is just perfect. He ends up where 8-Ball gets this idea, hey, if we want to get this, we have to, I don't want to spoil it. You should go read it if you haven't read it. But the idea of we're going to go and we're going to pretend we're kidnapping somebody to get somebody else there because we need to talk to them and all this. Well, we have to be like villains. So let's pretend we're villains. And 8-Ball's kind of goofy. But when you get there and they do this, you do end up then 8-Ball revealing not only that, but he also is a tech kind of guy and a mechanical kind, and he helps out with things. And it's like he didn't treat that there was a joke with 8-Ball, but 8-Ball wasn't a joke. and I thought it was really well done. I really, really enjoyed it. But that is the Fist of Conchu, and I will get off my soapbox and my 8-ball hashtag 8balls great club. But we'll go to the next one, and I guess we'll do this one. And it is a book that looks fantastic. We reviewed it, and I did like the art a lot. And it's one of those, a lot of people said about DC Supergirl this week, where they read the Supergirl book, and they're like halfway through, they thought, man, I don't know about this. And then at the end, they're like, okay, you know what? That's interesting enough. Let's see how it goes. That's how I felt reading the Spider-Man Wolverine. You kind of get a lot of really wow moments art-wise, but the story is like, well, but then at the end, you're like, oh, crap, that's pretty cool. And I think that people will enjoy it. But it's Spider-Man and Wolverine #1, written by Mark Guggenheim, art by Kari Andrews. The art it's great. It is so good. And it's $4.99. Thwicked, it says. Did you hear that? That sound can only mean one thing. Two of your favorite Marvel heroes doing what they do best. With great power, there must also come ... the best there is. This actually is a very clever solicit. It really is, because what happens in the book, they kind of have a little Freaky Friday thing going on, and so you're combining these. It's very good. That's pretty good. Spider-Man and Wolverine team up for the biggest adventure in Marvel Comics since the last one until the next one. Who and what are they targeting, or who or what is targeting this unlikely duo, and what can they do to stop it? Get ready for a nonstop thrill ride of big villains, bigger threats, and even bigger surprises as Logan and Peter Parker team up against the machinations of a plot too big for just one hero. The best is when you're reading it, please think of me, Argentina, because when you go to read it, when Logan, and please, when Logan first shows up in the book to talk to Spider-Man, not at the very beginning, everything looks great, but when he shows up to get Spider-Man, he looks like the coolest badass that ever lived. He looks so cool. And if you are in the Philadelphia area or you like the Phillies, I swear to God, he looks a little like Bryce Harper. That's who it reminded me of. I said it in the review. But he shows up, and lo and behold, in this book, actually pretty tight continuity with the current ASM as well. Shay is in there. There's mention of some things and stuff that's right on. It's really good. I'm telling you, it was really good with the art, and then by the end. But Edward says, and I'm looking back at the talk, Edward said, Supergirl was better the second time I read it. And I think it's better the second time you read it because you already knew what the ending was then. So then when you go through it again, you know, like it was a good ending. And speaking of which, Edward, you hopefully listened to the review on our Patreon Spotlight by now. I was 100% right. The solicits pointed out then that just came out. I was like, I was on the money. I did my research, but I also was lucky. I ended up reading something that kind of pointed to it right before. But yeah, I think that people will enjoy the Spider-Man Wolverine. Though, if you're like me, one of the things that I said was, man, these end Wolverine books, there's so many of them. I'm getting all lost and things. Thor said, I knoweth what thou didst last summer. This is Comic Book Muscle. If you ever go back and listen to the beginning of our Marvel podcast when we first started, it was at the Fresh Start. And Thor's speak was killing me. I have a lot of problems, but I was yelling a lot then. I'm like, I don't need this Thor speak. It drives me insane. Dan's like, what ye be doing? And it's funny. It's like either that is Thor or a random Amish person in a buggy. When we go to the Shady Maple Buffet, the biggest buffet in the world, I've been told. It's awesome, but you pass a lot of buggies. You pass them, and you're like, look at you. Look at you and your buggies and your simple life. Fear Monarch says, when I realized I paid money for this, I cried. You should say, he goes so over that. I wish I could pull up. I should. Would that be still the previews if I pulled up the letters page just to read this to shame Nick Lowe? People love that Nick Lowe. Would you be mad if I read this? I'm trying to do this as I'm talking. I need to pull this out. It made me giggle. The idea that I'm reading about this guy and he's like so emotional about this thing, and I almost cried. I was laughing so hard. It was so great. I ended up where we're about to start, and I forgot to tell Matt. And I'm like, Matt, did you read the back? He's like, no. I'm like, we ain't starting yet. You got to read this. And so I just sat there, and we're on the mic before we start. I'm just waiting, and he starts like, you hear the giggles start coming, and then he's just like out loud laughing. I'm like, oh, it's great, isn't it? It's the best. I'm loading it up now. Let me get to the end of this. Again, I say this, but he says, here's the spider's web. Nick says, sob, sniff, wipes his eyes and nose from ugly crying. Okay, Nick, you can do this. Get it together. Hey there, webheads. I've been so excited to share this issue with all of you since Joe turned in the script so many months ago. Cried a bit at that scene when reading the script. Then Peppy turned in the layout. Cried again. Then the inks, and I cried even more. Marty turned in the colors. Cried again. Then when I read Joe C's lettering today before writing up this letter page, I sobbed. I'm only imagining that at one point he was just looking at blank art and he was just crying. He cried again. He did. If you know me, and some of you do, you know that's pretty much 50% of what I'm looking for in art. And he's calling it art, high art, I would say. As I thought 50% was you pissing people off and 50% was ripping them off. That's what I thought, Nick. He says big emotional moments. So he's 50% is big emotional moments. The other 50%, 10% is kissing, which can tie to the emotional part. And of course, the other 40% is butt kicking. Now, you're doing this, Nick. You're terrible at it. I said one of the things that he said, this was the best, because he tweets out shit every week. And whatever ASM, my book of the week is ASM. Really? And the one point he said, I'll tell you right now, don't work heavy machinery while reading this issue. And I right away, I tweet to him, I'm like, that's the warning that you give with something that makes you fall asleep. That's what you give the warning to in painkillers or sleep thing. What are you talking about? You're horrible at everything. You just said don't work heavy machinery while reading this means they will fall asleep and crash it. You moron. He's so bad at it, but he's there and he's like crying about this. And you think, who's this gonna go? But he says, you know, and then what you do, the joke here is 50% is emotional. 10 is kissing and 70%'s butt kicking. You can't add it up to 100. The joke is that you mess it up by the end and go over 100. That's just a little tip there. I'll give him the tip of my something. Ooh-wee. I like that. He keeps going too. And then he's like, says, and wow, did Joe and Peppy and Marty and Joe C deliver on that front too? We're careening toward the first art conclusion next issue, and it's so good, so good. Peppy is almost finished with the art on issue 5, and I don't know, but why do I want to giggle when I say Peppy? I just imagine he's there chasing some cat that accidentally got a white streak of paint down their back, and he's talking nonsense. And then we switch over to John Romita Jr. for his first arc of this volume, and that is quite a doozy. You've got a slew of awesome and risky story arcs. When somebody says risky, that means they suck. And then the play, oh, well, at least they took some risks. Webheads, let's take a look back at some issues you've already read, and then you have what usually is. And I do say, too, and there's some people that I've talked to now when we do the live streams that I haven't talked to when doing the podcast. And some people probably never listen to the actual podcast. It's more of a podcast thing than more of a YouTube thing. But there was a while, and I'm talking a good amount of Zeb Wells' run, where you did not have the email address mentioned. That has come back once you get Joe Kelly into #1. But there was a point where you had letters coming in, but they weren't pushing the email address. And also the email us at spideroffice@marvel.com and mark your message okay to print for, a chance to see them in the thing. They're always going to put that. Excuse me. I have some phlegm here. But, or maybe I'm getting choked up because that letter was so sad. But, they stopped printing. They weren't getting real letters. He was making that shit up. You can tell because suddenly you'd have one letter was from Egypt. The next letter was from the South Pole. The next one was from France. And this one was from Las Vegas. And then the other one was from Tampa Bay. I'm like, really? It was nonsense is what it was. It was complete and utter nonsense throughout. So it did make me laugh. But they have it back. So you're getting some letters. And you can tell one guy says, I was reading that 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. And boy, that didn't make much sense. But somebody told me what it meant. So it was okay. What we should do is right now, what we'll do is one of the live streams, we'll all write a letter to the Spider-Man offices. We'll come up with one. I'll start it out, and then people give me some hints, because I have had like 3 letters in certain issues, and usually I do it as a joke. And we'll give some inside things and stuff. It'll be fun. We'll do that. But Nick Lowe does it well. Yeah, and also, lo and behold, too, don't be worried. There still is the lowdown. Everybody needs the lowdown, right? Yeah. You also have this month's host, who is an assistant editor, Emerald Bansandone. Pretty cute girl. She's there with her little editing, but she works on All New Venom, not great. Astonishing Spider-Man, terrible. Marvel Rivals, Spider-Verse, yeah, she's not on much at all. That's good. So maybe she's shouldn't be bragging about it. But we'll get back to the solicits. Now we'll go to the one that we're going to talk about way before, and the deal of me getting all over the place here. So thanks for bearing the load with me, if that's a saying. The next one is The Thing. The Thing #1. I've read and reviewed it. I think that people will enjoy it. I'll tell you, my phrase at the end was, I don't know why we need it. I don't really know why I need to read it myself, but it was okay. And we'll keep reading and reviewing it because of that. It is Tony Fleecs. And that's really, if you want to say, why would I read it? It's because a lot of people like Tony Fleecs, and there you go. It is art by Justin Mason. I don't know Justin Mason. The art had a really cool old school vibe. And if they ever did do one of those, like, let's go back, like, say out of nowhere, John Burns says, hey, I want to write some things and whatever. And they want to do one of those things like Claremont and unfortunately Peter David can't do anymore, but go back and like, hey, this happened here between this or done that. He'd be great for one of those type of books. $4.99. The Thing clobbers the Marvel Universe. Ben Grimm may be the strongest member of the Fantastic Four, but once upon a time, he was just a scrawny kid from Yancey Street. When an unexpected visitor from his past sends him on a search for a missing child, it's very, like, the plot is paper thin. It really is. The Thing must unravel the mystery, even if it means becoming a one-hit man. Get ready to see the ever-loving blue-eyed Thing versus every superpowered criminal and bounty hunter in New York City. Writer Tony Fleecs, Stray Dogs, doing a couple other things at the moment, like Feral. If people are still reading Feral, somehow that seems like it went on a little too long in my mind. I don't know. But artist Leonard Kirk, I thought it said that it was Justin Mason. Whoever it is, if it is Leonard Kirk, the art's pretty good. But that's Star Wars: The Battle of Jakku. Give a glimpse into the history of the Thing that reminds you why Ben Grimm is the heart of the Marvel Universe and why you don't want to hear him say, you don't want to, and let him hear you say that. There is a bit where, if you know the character, the Gladiator, he ends up having to talk to Gladiator. Gladiator starts yelling, and please, again, remember me when you're reading this. He starts yelling things that if you look at it, not even cross-eyed, if you kind of look at it in a little bit of a sus way, there's really bad things going down. Like the idea that this book becomes M for mature out the wazoo, if what he's saying is what it sounds like. And it certainly sounds like it. This sounds like some sexual innuendo going on. Just remember when you're reading it, and you'll giggle if you're like me. If you're actually like respectable and mature, you won't giggle. You'll say, why would Jim giggle at that? And, it's because that's me. I'm going to end with one last book. I'm not even reading it anymore. Not a fan of the writer. And I thought that the book was garbage, but I'm going to read it because some people still like it. And I don't know. It kind of makes me feel like I'm going to be a better person for reading The Ultimates #12. Solicit by Dennis Camp, Juan Frigeri on art. It's $4.99. Maybe. I would. That is a little too much, right? That's like $4.99 too high for that. But speaking of high, did I say Dennis Camp was writing him? Yes. The Ultimate Fracture. Dissent destroys the Ultimates as a disagreement long developing between two members of the team leads to a devastating departure. I haven't read the book in a while. I haven't looked at the book. I refuse. I would say that would be the Reed Richards Dr. Doom. Is it Reed Richards Dr. Doom? Dr. Doom and Iron Lad, or as some people call hatingly Iron Twink, which kind of makes me giggle anyway. But I think that they're probably yelling about time travel or something. I haven't even read the book in a couple issues, so somebody can tell me if I'm right. What I don't see in this is Diaper Neck from Gamma Island or nerve endings. You remember the person who's all nerves? I think that's what my wife said about me over the years. But yeah, the Ultimates, if people are still reading it, I'd like to hear if it was one of those like you didn't like it, but then it got better and you're like, no, it's really good now. That would inspire me. If you say you liked it from the beginning, I ain't listening. because that book stinks. But again, everybody has their own taste or lack thereof, it seems. But we'll go with that. I'm going to go back to the chat before I get to the indie stuff. And it says, Josh has shown up. Josh is reading a lot of books. I once said to Josh, I don't know if he remembers, but I said, I think that it might be easier for you to tell me what you're not reading, because then it would be, I'm reading everything, because he is. And that's awesome. And he ends up going through and giving his opinions on those, and I read them every time. And I like to see if I line up. Josh is a lot more positive than me, though. He really likes things. So when I see, and Josh, I'm telling you, when I see that you don't like something, that really is like, oh, crap, that must be really bad, especially when it's something I haven't read yet. You have Lane says, I can't wait for Hulk 25 Fractured Sun versus King Thor. Sign me up. And yeah, there you go. Ultimates 12. Josh is going to be reading. So you tell me how it was. Alex Ross cover for Mooney for Moon Knight. Those always look good. I started seeing people badmouth Alex Ross cover, and I'm like, really? Like, really? I've talked to Alex Ross. You want to talk about somebody who doesn't like Mark Waid? Nobody in this chat dislikes Mark Waid as much as Alex Ross. He has you all beat. He has you so beat that he's lapped you. Oh, it's good. It's good when you hear him go off. And I have actually talked to him personally. I think that he's a really cool guy. Dan Alvin says, McKay's Black Cat made me fall in love with the character, and now I collect Felicia appearances when I didn't before. Dan, I don't know if you've ever heard me talk, say, with Wes at Thinking Critical. I get made fun of because I tell his Black Cat is great. And I'm talking the first volume was great. That was so good. Then they kind of expanded. Then teaming her up with Jackpot. But I will read and review every one, especially anything that he does with Black Cat, because I think not only does he get Black Cat good, but the characters. And it was such a good character book. But that, again, it's not Moon Knight, but it's that same kind of thing. A side kind of, not a side character, but it's not an A-list. It's a quirky character. Moon Knight's quirky just because of, the whole mental illness and things like that and how he works and all that stuff. Conchu. But Black Cat is like, well, villain, hero, kind of in between, the deal with. But it works so well. It works so well. That first one was so damn good, and I loved it so much. So I'm with you. It made me fall in love with the character. There was other assets that she has that might make you fall in love with her, but he wrote it so good. And in that, you still have like threads that weren't tied together of, people kind of being in a vault under New York City. And like, let's get back to that. But he's definitely not good at naming bad guys. Brandon, I'm telling you, when you have the list, when you got the list of the bad guys in the Avengers, you're like, oh man, these are pretty bad. And then when you got what seemed to be just variant cover versions in the Blood Hunt, then I'm like, yep, this is how he does it. These are awful. Just what it felt like was he was walking downstairs in his house, tripped, had a bunch of those magnet things with the words. They flung off in his refrigerator, and he just wrote the shit down. That sounds good. Like, you could have a fun game of just naming things like him, the shivering, I'm trying to think of something, the shivering fountain. Like, that would be one. It'd be so stupid. Also, he loves that play, I hate it, in the Avengers with the icon and this. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. The God. And JK left. Goodbye, JK. That's really good solicitation. Yeah. I think that I hope that was the Wolverine Spider-Man. That was pretty good. Supergirl was better the second time I read it. That is true. I love Coriandra's art. I bought the Insane Reign 2 book just for the art, basically. Gavin said earlier, yeah, I mentioned the Reign 2. That book was insane. I'll say, like, when I'm reading things and I'm reviewing it, I mean, I have to know what the story is. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't know. But if you're just reading and you like the art, sometimes maybe I'm saying I'm going with Dennis Camp's Martian Manhunter. People love it. I don't, because I don't love I'm not going to be wowed by just art. That's not my thing. I like a whole package, as they say, but I also like story and character work a little more. And that's like kind of like ambiguously secretive mystery by just not telling us things. And that's not my way. But there is something to be said. And I'm kind of learning in my old age, the idea of the quote of, you can't find anything like this anywhere else. You might say that about Reign 2. Now, I don't know why you would want to find something like that, but boy, it was unique. That was freaking crazy. Holy moly. Alan said, I remember when they did a Freaky Friday with Spider-Man and Wolverine, the original Ultimate line. It's a little different. It's not full Freaky Friday. You'll see. It's kind of a cool way, but when they do it, the way that they do it, they're able to do some really fun things with it. And boy, if it wasn't the idea of, instead of having full story, it was just like, hey, Kari, what you want to draw, because it looks great. It looks really, really cool. And Gavin, if you love Carrie Andra's art, you get the Spider-Man Wolverine. It looks incredible. I mean, there are pages on there that when you're going through a book, I love the idea where, first off, like back in the day, oh man, that'd be a great poster. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, I think I'm going to put that as my background on my tablet. And I'm like, I think I may have to buy 6 more tablets because there's so many good ones. Oh my goodness, I loved it. But Fear Monarch says, hell yeah. Alan says, Thor speak keeps me from reading the book. It's true. Fear Monarch, suck it up, Kevin Smith. And Itsy Bitsy last issue. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. She's like, hey, daddy, let me kiss and lick you. I'm like, I don't know about that. But this one, she gets full out crazed. And she becomes the predator. And I'm talking the look. It's scary. And also seems to be more of a thing in the story than Hobgoblin. But that's where Fear Mark says, now I know now why the clown cried. I like Itsy Bitsy. Yeah, Dungeon Crawler Carl thinks that you're right. Nick Lowe thinks he's Stan Lee. He's not. He doesn't have that personality. He's not likable. Comic Book Muscle says Fear Monarch, that Kevin Smith comparison. Dungeon Crawler, that is true. He cries a lot, right? Yeah, JR Jr. can't contain my excitement. Yeah, I still like him. I end up where, again, I kind of like to, give him his props for what he did, but that's kind of cool to come back once in a while. Brandon C says, JR returning. Oh boy, so now we get a bad story of mediocre art. Jim's got a hairball. Hold on, folks. Yeah, I did. I was having problems. Here's the beginning of the letter and the end of the letter. Dear Spider Team, please stop. Thank you. So there's what we'll do. Now, what we'll do, we'll say like things like, yeah, I really thought we have to add the low part in, but it's like a diss, but he won't realize, right? We'll do that. That'd be pretty cool. We'll come up with something. You can't get too crazed out. I had one letter that I ended up sending in, and I went so crazy with references, and then I was like, my brother this, and our parents were getting divorced. I was really laying it on heavy. It didn't work. But I was in a letters page, I believe, of Miss Marvel, something else, and lo and behold, I named the letters page of the Sacrificers. I'm not sure if there's anybody left that I haven't told that story to. Brandon says, here's the beginning. Yeah, please stop that. I cried when I read Secret 6, but I did that to myself. I'll get the trade of the Thing book. I think it'll read really good in trade. It's a weird start, but by the end, there's a lot of books like this. We've even talked tonight, the books of, I don't know if I need this, but boy, it was kind of cool. I'll read it. Fear Monarch said to Dan that he got to meet the Feral team, and they said they want it to run as long as they're allowed. So it's pretty much until they get canceled, I believe. I'm looking because I did say the creator said Feral is going to run forever like Spawn, 300 plus issues, type dedication when the series started, if I recall. Yeah, and Tom King said that Batman was going to go 100 issues. Again, I think that when you do that, this is just me. I think that's kind of bullshit. You know what I mean? Like you're saying that, and then when it gets canceled for any reason, then people are like, "Oh, damn it, they said this," and it's not them that's bad, it's the other people. Like they say that just to say it, and maybe tongue in cheek or whatever. But that kind of gets me. And Fear Monarch says Farrell's great. It's been building slowly. I ended up stopping at like issue 5. I thought it was ending like in an issue, and then I still see it coming up. I was bored shitless. I didn't like it much at all. I tried, and Stray Dogs was pretty good, but I thought that Farrell was going nowhere slow. I really was like, yeah, whatever. I don't know. I don't need Homeward Bound Part 7, I guess. But fire up the Rusty Trombone Evildoer, says Fear Monarch. I have a song, Rusty Trombone, over at a different channel. I'll tell you that. And Dan says the creative said Farrell's going, yeah. I love Stray Dogs hanging in there on Farrell, but they need to wrap it up, says Edward. Gabe gave a vicious review of the Ultimate Deal. Yeah. And anytime Gabe has these things where he's fighting with people and whatnot, but they do get mad at his Ultimate review. But again, and I love when people are like, you messed up the aggregate score. Oh my goodness. You mean the reviewer actually told you their actual opinion, but you're mad because the aggregate score? Oh my. Fear Monarch said, yeah, you got to meet the deal, and they said they want to keep going. I'd like to keep going too. Scrawny Kid, you do see him as a real little kid, and it's his big brother that ends up being one of the Yancey toughs, and yeah, he's kind of scrawny. It's a weird play. It's kind of weird. Island Misfit Heroes should get a spinoff. Oh, Gavin, they are the best. Those Gamma, I'm reading that. I talked twice about it. 2 separate podcasts, both times crying. I was laughing so hard. Oh my goodness, look at Diaper Neck, and look at that, and then that person has an extra head, and I'm like, this is hilarious. And then I read reviews and like, this is the most touching issue that I've ever read. And I really wish they went with the names that we came up with. It's like, I really felt for Diaper Neck. I'm like, really? Because what that book was really about was that Tony and all them were pieces of shit that they ended up not caring about. They thought that they could use these as separate Hulk monsters that they could use to attack, and then realize that they were I'm like, yeah, but it was hilarious. To quote Gabe, he says this issue is an insult to everyone who paid cover price over the last 12 months. Yep. And even though Gabe will disagree, or he'll tell you otherwise, well, how can you review how can you edit a review when you don't even read it? I haven't read a Gabe review in probably 2 years. I just let him go. Let him roll, I say, with Gabe Steele. Though I did end up having big thoughts of reviewing some things, written reviews last week. I did Star Wars 2 weeks ago. I came out of retirement of written reviews. I thought it was a doozy, too. Pretty good review. I think I still have it, is what I'm saying. But that's a lot of work. I'm too lazy for that. But now I have my medicine, maybe. Maybe tonight, because I am wired. The Black Cat being in ASM, I guess, is just a launching pad for her upcoming series. Maybe. I don't know. We'd have to see. Fear Monarch says, juicy dumper Black Cat. There's more than a dumper, I'll tell you. Lane says, I don't get what is going on with Peter and her. Since an 8 deaths of Welcome to Blasville, she was making out with him. Yeah. I don't want to. I think that Lane is very wholesome guy. They had sex. They completely were knocking boots in that. They weren't just kissing. They had that day after deal of like, oh my goodness, what did we do? I'm like, I know what I call it. With the deal. And Shay, that's why I think that in the roundabout deal, Shay saying that we're not exclusive, I think that was maybe because they were afraid that Peter, you have this whole MJ going with Paul. You don't want to make Peter look like he's cheated on Shay, so they have that weird little thing, whatever. There is one of the letters is talking about how Shay might be as good as Mary Jane. Like, really? Like, Nick, you writing shit in again? Shay's okay. Like, the amount of hate Paul gets, Shay actually is sassy, at least. You don't have, cuck Paul. Joseph says, I got it early. I really enjoyed it at first, but by the end, I still enjoyed it. But it fell off a bit. And I don't know if he's talking, are you talking Feral at this point? or are you talking an individual issue? But I don't know. This is what happens when I go too long. I was already on the pull list. I'm a big Wolverine guy, and God knows I'm not reading a solo book. Well, that you have the Wendigo story, which is almost as funny as the Gamma Island. That was funny at a point too. Edward says, new podcast, Storytime with Angry Jim. I need Ross Wade's story. It's good. Everybody would know it. The idea of continuing Kingdom Come, arguing about it, Wade going to do it anyway, and really Alex Ross sitting back and laughing at how bad it was. That's kind of what it seemed to be. Edward says that. So Alan says, you and Wes's Patreon Ultimates discussion were some of the most hilarious things I've listened to in years. I will say that me and Wes, when we were talking about that, it did remind me a lot, and it's a shame because Eric, the guy I did the DC podcast with for 10 years, that we had like stuff like that every week. It was like we always did have fun and came up with some wacky stuff to talk about. But at least that with Eric leaving, I do get to talk with Wes about it. I think that Alan would agree, though, that lately it's just me yelling at Wes now, telling him he's nonsense and screaming at people because they have eye afflictions. Drives me nuts. Kickstart My Heart, Adderall Edition. It is. I love the beginning of that. I actually had, I forget what it was. It was a parody song, though, with Kickstart My Heart. Joseph Wolf said, I kind of like Ultimates, but I'm just waiting for it on MU now. Yeah, I never really liked it. I thought it was more, you could disagree, but I thought it was less a book, more of a concept deal. Hey, what if Midas bought the White House? And then in it, there would be things that were only there to be like a punchline or a wow moment. You ended up having that in that new Hawkeye deal, but you really had it in that Midas issue. That Midas issue is the one that I point to that some people claim is the greatest thing they ever read. I actually saw somebody had a list of my favorite comics I've ever read on the League of Comic Geeks. And I'm going down, I'm looking, I'm like, what? And that was the issue that they said. The one with I think that was like 2. And the whole thing is, we're here to save America. We're here to save America. And then it ends up being America Chavez. And I'm like, go F yourself. Like, what are you doing? I kind of like he said that. Dan says, too many great live shows at once on Tuesday nights, geez. Beyond Wednesdays right now. Group of 7 reading the best Uncanny Run ever in full character, issue by issue every week. I don't know what those are. Yes, I have no idea. But yeah, that's the thing too. I didn't even think of anything with other shows. I really don't watch any shows, so I don't know what's going on. Though I do know, and it does upset me now that I think of it, that Josh has a show tonight that I end up on sometimes. I think I missed the last one. I don't know, but I might have. But again, I'm just here to talk some things. And really, I'll tell you right now, like, by the way, people, this show's probably only going to be 20 minutes. That's what I thought. That's what I told my dog and my wife. Take my wife, please. But we'll get back. We'll do the last bit, which will be indies. Probably have to tie this up a bit. We will start with Dark Horse. And I think people will enjoy this one. It is Robo Wolf, #1. Jake Smith writing, Jake Smith art, $4.99. Cover looks great. I don't know anything about this, but the cover certainly looks like it is straight up either actually it looks like an old Activision game, maybe, but it also looks a lot of TMNT-like thing. RoboWolf and his crew of bank-robbing criminals are in a race against time to get a fat stack of stolen money to the villainous Colonel Massacre, who has kidnapped Robo. Wolf's daughter it says who has kidnapped Robo. Then you get 5 like spaces, like actual like lines down, and then Wolf's daughter for ransom. The Colonel, who I hope looks like Colonel Sanders, not the only one with an eye on the money, however, and our heroes will have to use their combined skills to tear through an onslaught of bloodthirsty cannibals, ninjas, robots, and more. It looks great. It does look pretty good. It looks like that crazy, like, 90s font, actually. Pretty cool. But yeah, I'm probably going to check that out. Looks pretty damn neat. There is already, and speaking of which, there's already 2 reviews up. One from Capes and Tights, they gave it a 10, and Aped gave it an 8.5 because they love both scores, 8 and 8.5. Speaking of which, there is still a site out there that's doing full out, straight up AI reviews. They just type in the solicit and get reviews. And it reminds me, I mentioned the Hawkeye issue of the Ultimates. And if you read that, and I'll defer to those who read it, and they'll know how funny this is. When you had that Hawkeye issue, Joseph will be the one that I'm going to defer to. In this review, he goes, man, Clint Barton was really upset when he found out that somebody replaced him because they end up having the battle of the lifetime. Clint was not in the issue. He's dead. Like, really? Like, that's what it was? Okay. Fear Monarch said, I'm an island unto myself. And you have Joseph Wolf. I'm excited for the new G. Willow Wilson Black Cat book. Yeah. G. Willow Wilson, I actually really like G. Willow Wilson's Miss Marvel. I am not a fan of the Poison Ivy. I've kind of dropped that. I dealt with it for the longest time, me and Eric doing it. Once Eric left the podcast, so I was like, yeah, some of these are going to be trimmed out. RuneScape next issue is finally out this week. So you get that. That's pretty cool. What's the next book on the docket after Robo Wolf #1? Well, we'll say that the next one is, I'm looking down the list, beep-a-doop, a-deep-a-dop. It's not any, is Star Wars right now, is that being written by Tim Sheridan? Oh no, it's Christopher can't write well. Yeah, that's a bum. I don't like Star Trek anyway, because I like Star Wars, and I'm not allowed to like Star Trek. Star Trek's too fancy. I would get tired keeping my pinky up while watching that completely through. So screw that. I'm now going to go. And I also realized that I haven't hit all the things that I have. I'm just looking at things that got reviewed so far. So we might have some other ones now, because I'm going to go for the next one. I'll put this in there. Not a big fan. Didn't like the first issue, but I know people like the Mark Miller. But Vatican City #2 is coming out. Mark Miller and Pierre Berg. I did not like the art at all. I said at the one point, you have the pile of dead bodies. There's a vampire on top, and I'm like, okay, I think there's a shark there, C-3PO's leg, and possibly a lamp. That's what I saw. I didn't like it. I thought that the story wasn't great either, and didn't feel as sharp and as, good as a Mark Miller start usually is. Usually a start of his issues, I'm like, holy crap, like, I never thought of this, or that's really cool. And the way he's doing this, I was like bored by the end. The siege continues with the last humans on Earth trapped behind the walls of Vatican City as billions of vampires wait outside. Also, I think that he does really good with characters in the first issue. Even pieces of shit, you want to see them more. I don't even remember this guy's name, who was the guy who was like, I want to be one of these Vatican guys, and I want to do this. And then the vampires wait outside afraid of the holy relics, but something is buried beneath the Vatican itself, and the vampires want it more than even human blood inside. And I think they spelled it out last issue, that it's like the queen of vampires is underneath, which might be Ilea, right? I don't know. I was not into it. But this book I'm into. Bug Wars #4, Jason Aaron, Mamata Sar. It is $4.99, Lost in the Yard. Imbued with the power of the mystical amulet, Slade Slaymaker, one of the worst names, but also the most awesome names, and certainly should be playing guitar for Danzig, has survived blood-crazed mosquitoes and barbaric beetle riders. He has. Also a lot of bug orgies. But as he crosses the wilds of the yard with the spider witch Wista, who I love, but it's kind of bad right now, bad to the bone, an even greater danger awaits, for they must enter the world of death and utter ruin known as the Mode Lands. Sid is up to no good. I really like the book. I'm looking forward to reading the next issue of that. I thought that the last issue was a little bit down, but I'm really, really enjoying it. It's one of those kind of guilty pleasures, I think. I don't know. Is it that guilty? Because it seems, but it's not. But we'll keep going. I'm looking down. We may be going. We will go next with, I can't believe that Terminator book is still coming out. Ooh, Alice Cooper Crossroads trade paperback from Dynamite's coming out. Maybe into that. IDW is nothing that I'm looking forward to. We got this. A lot of Spawn stuff. I'm not a big Spawn guy. But if you are, there's a bunch of things for that coming out. Here are 2 more. Maybe 3 more, because I do like to focus on #1s, even when I'm taking a #2. This next one, though, is not a #1. It's not a #2. It's actually a number awesome. It's Redcoat #12. Jeff Johns, Brian Hitch on art, doing a bang-up job. $3.99, worth every single penny. If you go, you should give them an extra $1 is what you should do. And then have them use it for advertising. So damn well everybody will read the books. Nobody knows about him. The Northerner Part 2. The Unnamed's newest American legend clashes with Simon Pure, a man he's grown to despise more than anyone he's ever encountered. But as tensions boil over, Simon uncovers a startling revelation about the Northerner that could shatter everything he holds true. How will their uneasy alliance shape the unfolding mysteries of the unknown war? The answers lie within. You get a thing. I haven't read it, but I did page through it. You get a panel or a page where you have like a locker of the Northerner. It's some of the coolest stuff in there if you're like an alt history guy. Pretty cool. I really like that. Right now with Rook on a hiatus, Redcoat might be one, if not my favorite book in comics right now. I know a lot of people go with Space Ghost. There's Space Ghost, Flash Gordon. There's a lot of these that kind of like, they're not the same, but they kind of go in that same vein, but there's nothing like Redcoat. I really, really like it. And at one point I was a moron and didn't think that I liked Brian Hitch's art, but boy, in this, it looks great. I really, really like it. Next number one is called Sleep Number One. Know nothing about it. It's just number one. Xander Cannon. Sounds like a pretty cool name. Xander Cannon. Seems like he knows how to surf. And he does the art and the write. He's a writist. It's $3.99 miniseries premiere. When Jonathan Reason falls asleep. Not a great name there. But Xander Cannon. That is pretty cool. He becomes something else. Every night, it stalks his quiet town, killing seemingly indiscriminately. When he wakes, covered in blood, our story begins. It's almost like he goes through a metamorphosis, right? This new horror, or that he's a damn wolf man. This new horror mystery from Xander Cannon, who did Heck, Top 10, and he did Kaiju Max. I heard a lot of people say that was good. I like the name. It seems like it's like the Kaiju version of that. If you go and watch, you can like turn the channel a little and see like porn. Like Skinamax. Shows us the horrifying waking hours of an unwilling part-time killer. That's cool, right? I just ended up, I have this wrap. I told you from the beginning. And I have that spicy mayo. I kind of dipped my finger in and I tasted some of them. Well, holy crap, it's taking my breath away, is what it's doing. Holy moly, that's hot stuff. The next one's The Curse of Shirley Johnson, number one. Whew. Written by Daniel Enriquez and Jonathan Glapion on art. I thought Jonathan Glapion was not an artist. Something seems weird there. $5.99. I thought he was like a inker or colors. I might be wrong. Let me see. Let me see if it says there. It's just that seems weird. It doesn't have a preview. All right. Series premiere. What happened to Shirley Johnson? I don't know. What happened to Howard Johnson's, right? Used to get like ice cream when you stayed there. We went there once when we were going to Florida. The 7-year-old victim of the infamous serial killer, Billy Kincaid. Not Reuben Kincaid. He was killing people, but that was while he was on tour with the Partridge Family. And I say killing, it's because they were killing the audience every night with their awesome tunes. The Curse of Shirley Johnson, an epic new chapter in the Spawn universe. Explores the fate of the innocent young girl. I think you should put, this is like the idea of like burying the lead. Maybe you should put Spawn, The Curse of Shirley Johnson, so that I would know. Her harrowing adventures with the stranger laid bare on her story, as her story in the world she now inhabits is revealed. I'll tell you, I had some harrowing adventures with the stranger myself. I had some lonely times. I guess it is Jonathan Glapion's an artist. For some reason, I thought he was like I don't know. Now I feel dumb. With a story conceived with the twisted mind of Daniel Enriquez and interior art by celebrated artist Jonathan Glapion, unless you ask me. The reader, and I'm not even saying I can't even remember. I know the name. The reader will explore parts, and they don't even say. Usually they'll say something. I'll go, oh, shit, yeah. Explore parts of the Spawn universe never before seen. The series will ship bi-monthly, starting in May. Retailers, it says. If you order 10 copies, it keeps got. I hate when the solicits is like, if you order 10 copies of any cover, you will unlock the ability to purchase unlimited copies of the new printing of Spawn number 5, which is Shirley Johnson's first appearance. Yule's listening. He's like, oh, man, I'm not doing that. So there you go. Yeah. I telling you, this is also how dumb I am. If you said to me, it's almost like you go, oh, this series ships bi-monthly. Oh, it comes out every other month? That sucks. No. Then the next, this one's bi-monthly. Ooh, twice a month? Whatever. I think it's every other month. And also it doesn't say, I'm looking here. Is this when they go up and, oh, that's $5.99. That's why. I was going to say, is this when they're going up to $3.99? Holy crap. It must be oversized, right? Did they say that in there? I don't know. I'm getting tired. What's next? What is next? You have some Mad Cave stuff? Anything from Mad Cave? We could point this out. Why not? We're already here. Whatever happened to the Crimson Justice #1, Frank Thierry, and on art, Anika Miranda? I like both. I like Frank Thierry. I actually have talked to Frank Thierry. He's a nice guy. This stuff's usually good, right? Good. It's kind of mid, but it's not bad. And sometimes he gets some winners, right? It is, whoa, Christ, what is this? It's $11.99. Holy moly. Does he give you his number? There was a time when the red alert shone in the sky. Empire City's greatest hero, the Crimson Justice, would answer the call. But now it's been years, and neither he nor his sidekick, Reddy, nor their psychotic arch foe, Dr. Mayhem, have been seen since the great Empire City Hospital fire decades ago. What happened that fateful night? Did they all die? But if that's the case, who or what is Dr. Mayhem, who's reappeared in the modern day, brutally murdering Commissioner Thomas Kent and the challenging the Justice to return? Is it possible? Does the Crimson Justice still live? Why the hell is it $11.99? And if so, what could have made him disappear and abandon his Crimson Hood in the first place? Join the Eisner-nominated team of Frank Thierry and Anika Miranda, Godzilla, Here They Be Dragons, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman, as I know Miranda, I think, from Catwoman, as they unravel the mystery in this 5-issue series of heroes. And do you get them all at once? And the consequences of being either. Ooh-wee. Is that wrong? That has to be wrong, right? I don't know. $11.99. Holding the line at $11.99. That better not be the slogan from now on. Nobody's going to read shit. We'll keep going. You have some manga. I mentioned it last week where I did point out something that might be coming out that I thought was pretty good. I'm looking at it. Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 26. That's pretty cool. The others I'm not that fond of, so there you go. You also have some stuff from Vertical. Oh, I like Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro. It's Volume 19, but that's pretty cool. I like that. And then Square Enix, finally somebody's writing a book about me. Love in the Palm of His Hand. The Jim Werner story. It is. There you go. Not the biggest of tales, I'll tell you. But that's it. There's no other books. They're all done. I'm done. We went way too long. Once again, I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. I hope they have fun having fun with me. I'm going to finish this up by looking at the chat. So many people have bailed. Oh, yes. Feral's great. It's been building slowly. We said that. Rusty Trombone. I'm all for it. The creative said Feral's going, oh, I'm way back. Let me go. Gavin said, agreed. I'm a huge Miller fan, and that issue felt like a mess. Art and story. Art on the newest Huck felt muddy. Yeah, I agree. I haven't read Huck. I just went through it. I will read it, but I've never read the original Huck, so I'm kind of worried about that. That Vatican City just did not have the spark. It didn't have the spark that usually happens. I mean, the pull of it and the cleverness is, oh, they're at the Vatican, so the vampires can attack. But I was waiting for something else, some other twist. And it really was weird. And then you have, remember in the issue, you have the vampires, and they're kind of on that Mendoza line deal. And like, hey, why don't you come out here, people? We're hungry. And then you have that couple is like, hey, the hell with you. And then the dad goes out, and then the kids are just left there. And then suddenly our main character, who I can't remember his name, is just like, hey, hang with me. I'm like, boy, there's no emotions to any of this. It feels like it's like a paint by numbers deal where Mark Miller's busy with a lot of things, but ends up not caring that much about this. Helen, like my Queen of the Damned reference. Oh, yes. R.I.P. But yeah, Turbulence 3. Fear Monarch said Slade Craven. Slade just reminds me of the band Slade. Those guys are goofy. But yeah, Slade Slaymaker. That there's nobody that would ever have that name that it wasn't made up. Like, seriously, because I wouldn't like to meet Slade's Slaymaker. I'd like to meet his parents, is what would be. Not in that book, because we know the dad's horrifically dead, and I'm not that bad. Deadly Tales of Gunslingers. I end up, Gavin, I'll say that Spawn is one of those that there's so many books, and there seems to be a bunch of jumping on points, but it swirls in my head, and I have at points really wanted to get in the Spawn. In fact, I started a Spawn reading club, and nobody seemed to care, so I just stopped it. I ended up just ending it, and I really wanted to get into it, but I just couldn't quite do it. But I also thought that of Hellboy, and I really love our Hellboy reading club podcast, and I thought that, lo and behold, of The Walking Dead, which is one of my favorite books now. So Joseph Wolf said, they say it because a lot of people would rather get on longer ongoing series, and indies rarely go long. I might check it out later, though. It is true. I mean, that's one of the things where, again, I was on the thing with Wes and we were talking about the state of things, that I said, indie's so good right now in my mind, because before you'd end up where somebody would say, again, if it was Feral even, that's going on longer, but somebody would say, oh man, you got to read Bug War. Usually in the past, it'd be like, oh, what issue? Oh, what's that for? Well, it's going to end at 6, so I'll get it in trade. And then what happens is a lot of times you say that, and then you forget, right? And Fearmark says $4.99. I'm telling you, it says $11.99. It's a weird price. But you end up, I have so many books that I do end up saying, I want to read that. I want to get to it. But I'm so busy doing the current things, and you move on, you forget things like that, that I think that was the play. They were good books, but almost feeling disposable or inconsequential at times because they only stayed around for a little. Some of the bigger ones, obviously, the ones that we know, Invincible, Walking Dead, stuff like that, that ends up because it did last longer, and then you go. But recently, what has really changed the lay of the land in my mind is having a lot of contained universes popping up and having a lot of books that are going further. You know, and I'd even say, like, Conan is kind of its own contained universe, but it's also a book that keeps going. Flash Gordon keeps going. Space Ghost keeps going, even though they're even going to, I think that them restarting at a #1 is ridiculous. But there's, you get more of that, hey, I missed 4 issues, but boy, this is going to go on for a while, and I really do like that. So I'm not saying Feral shouldn't go further. It's just, I thought it was ending soon, and I was getting bored. But I really do think that overall, and one of my things when I did talk to Wes, and I'll tell you right now, when I said the thing that gets me upset a lot, especially now, and especially even at DC, Marvel's struggling, but there's still some, but DC has some good books. I hate generalized statements. I hate the idea of DC sucks. Okay, but there's some good books. Or they're this, that, and all those catchphrases. I've talked about this so many times, but I hate when people say, oh, even I love manga. But if they say, I read manga because Western comics suck, well, they don't really suck. There's a lot of good books. Or, hey, everything stinks, there's nothing to read. There's so many books each week. Some weeks are better than others, but there's usually at least 2 or 3 really, really good books, even if it is just indie. I mean, there are some really good books out there, and some books that I think will go down as some classics, even going right now, especially indie stuff and whatnot. Right now, I mean, it's a low bar because I don't know if there's been many. There has been, but you're getting the best Space Ghost book there ever been. You're getting a Flash Gordon book that's great. Conan is incredible. And I said when I was talking with Wes, and I don't know if people would agree with this either, but to me, it's almost like Conan is so good that you forget how good it is. Like it's not wowing you because it's always great. So there's not really that many, there's not really like down points. So it's so consistently great that you kind of lose track of it sometimes. And you're more amazed at something else that, oh, I didn't think that was going to be good, and it was great, like a Space Ghost at points. But Conan is just so good that it's like, it almost is a detriment. It's so weird to say it. It doesn't sound right when you say it out loud, but it kind of feels like that at points. But yeah, and even that Gavin's saying, and going back to the gunslinger stuff and the stuff, and he says, I felt the same about Spawn, wanted to try, but never have the push. I love Westerns, though, so I figured I'd give gunslinger stuff a try. Palmiotti is doing well on this one, and he's great at Western stuff. And here's why I love talking to people and why I love the show. I didn't know that Palmiotti was doing that. If I would have known, I would have actually have tried it out already. So I might check it out. And why I do like these books, and again, some people say there's so many, but you actually found your jumping on point. That's awesome. That's why I like the New 52, where people don't like it because they have their reasons, and a lot of it was personal. But I liked it because I got into comics, but I got into it because there was a cool number ones and a lot of different variety of stuff, including, say, All-Star Western, which I loved. I thought was great, and I don't love Westerns, but Dungeon Crawler Carl says, Feral is crazy. The lady reminds me of my mother. I hope that she wouldn't remind me of my mother, or else I would probably rip the book in shreds. Is there any way, do you open the book and it starts berating you and says things like, I wish I never had you? If that's the case, then maybe it would remind me of my mom. I remember, and I'm telling you, I remember being like 7 and my mom saying stuff like that. And I already knew, like, I'd be like, thanks a lot, Mom. Like, you're making me really happy right now. Thank you. And I think that what I would say, and I got sassy pretty quick, but she was like, I wish I never had you, whatever. I'm like, I wish you never had me either. Like, there's a lot of other picks. Like, you know, I'm not going to go full out like some people. I wish that the Queen of England was my mom. I'm saying a random homeless lady that we saw at the mall yesterday. I'll go with that. They might have more care. I saw the way they were grabbing their bindle. They were doing that with care. But you end up, Fear Mark says, in 5-10 years, people will hold the sickness as a modern-day black hole from Charles Burns. I'm hoping you don't mean that movie. That movie wasn't great. The black hole, I mean. Sounds like my mom. Yeah, Dungeon Crawler Carl. I just say, yeah, me too. That's what I said. Yeah. That's all I would say then. And then I would feel bad. And I'm like, why the hell do I feel bad? I didn't start this roller coaster ride of emotions, because then sometimes she'd start crying. And then I'd be like, I obviously I learned not to care from my mother. So thank you, Mom. Thanks a lot. She lives like 3 blocks down. I haven't seen her in 10 years. 10 best years of my life. I wish she would listen to oh God, you're giving him a complex. Yeah. My dad would sit there. My dad was more of a whatever I said was wrong kind of guy. That was what he was. My mom would go basic, like go to the heart of the matter, that me personally was a failure. My dad would just say my decisions and all of my thoughts were failures. I mean, I could tell you right now, if my dad was still alive and he's like, oh, what's going on? Oh, I have a live stream night. Oh, he would have been in the thing 2 hours ago. We're at 2 hours and 11 minutes. 2 hours ago. Nobody wants to hear you. Why do you keep doing this? This is bullshit. These people hate your guts. I'd be like, thanks, Dad. And I'd say, that's chip off the old block, you big fatso. He says, Patrick Reynolds' art is really great as well. Really fits the Western vibe. Give this week's a try. I think I will. I'll probably sit there. When we're done here, I have so much to do that I think I won't do any of it. I think I might go to bed, which does mean if you are a fan of the Weird Dose of X, we may or may not get that tonight. It comes out Tuesday, and I have not edited yet, and I'm very tired. I'm crashing. Did she try hitting you with an SUV? Says Dungeon Crawler Carl. The big point is my mom never learned to drive. She's from England. She didn't drive in England, came over to the U.S., and at first my dad knew better and didn't want her to drive, but they also end up where she couldn't. I remember she was practicing to get a license around the time that I was practicing, and my practice to get a license had a bit of a stalling when my mom hit a parked car in what my dad described as a parking lot of basically the size of a mall parking lot with one car in it. He said my mom seemed like she pointed directly at this car and just kept going. He tried to reach over, accidentally hit the gas, and they went into the side of this car. And I'm not really sure if they ended up where they might have flown the coop there. Because the car was not, it wasn't just the car wasn't really damaged. We weren't allowed to put that car on the road for quite some time. I think that the heat was on I'm telling you, it was not Beverly Hills Cop, but the heat was on. I was not allowed. I remember, I think I snuck it out because I had a hockey game, and I had to drive to the hockey game. And this was even like, again, this shows you though how long, because I did go and get my license then, but I didn't really have a car to drive because that was like our sidecar. And yeah, I was not allowed to drive it. And my dad got really, really mad when I did actually go and drive it later because I still think the heat was on. And he wanted to try to get rid of it. But yeah, actually, Fear Monitor, it was the same thing, like in the snow or whatever it was at that one point. It was exactly that. As my dad explained it. My dad's like, you should have seen it, Jimmy. She was going like, can you believe it? There was one car in the parking lot, and this bitch ended up hitting it. And then my mom, who does sound like a British version of Edith from freaking the what's it called? All in the Family. That's not true. She's yelling. And then they just started fighting. And usually when they fought, what would happen is I couldn't keep my mouth shut. Like at that point, I should go upstairs, right? Just go upstairs. And what ends up happening is then I'll be there and I'll laugh. Or my mom will say to me, like, who do you believe? Do you think I'd do that? And I'd say, like, I've seen you drive. Like, or I'd say, well, if you drive as good as you cook, I'll believe that, thinking, it's joke time. Everybody's throwing shade. Everybody's Larry Bird now. And then suddenly I'd see a fist come flying from my right. My dad would punch me right in the jaw. Then I'm there, and I look, and again, I would sit there, and I played hockey. I would say that for the most part, I was I wasn't a wimp, but I'd look at my dad, and I would sit there, and it was getting to, like, every year, I'm like, I think I could take you, you son of a bitch. But I would look at him, and I was a little more respectful probably than I should be. And then suddenly it becomes my mom and dad yelling, trying to get me to fight my dad. Look at tough guy. Why don't you hit him if you want to look at him like that? And I'm like, I'm clenching my fist. I'm ready. I was ready. And then I would say stuff like, I don't want to get arrested for murder. And then it was the worst. Yes. Yeah, Dungeon Crawler Carl said they wouldn't pay for hockey. My parents didn't really pay either. When I first started, I used equipment of my one buddy. He had extra stuff, so I did that a lot. And then I got a job to buy hockey equipment. I got the job. I shouldn't have. I think I started it was a Hardee's. I started at like right as I turned 14. Then I started buying my own stuff. And I also got a lot of Beatles LPs. So I got it all. I never went skiing, though, because I could not afford that. My mom and dad would never pay for that. But yeah. I ended up being lucky at times too. I do think that at one point, like the one kid, my one friend, his parents did. I think that what they were giving me, I think they bought the equipment. I think that because he would always be like, "Oh, I have the second." I'm like, "You're a lot bigger than me. Well, why is this?" And he was like, "Don't worry about it." So I ended up wearing, and again, I had like one pair of skates for the longest time. They stopped fitting. I had a lot of that shit. And again, I didn't mind. I loved hockey. It was expensive, but I did love it. The thing is, I don't know if it was as careful. I was a left wing, and I think I only ever broke a stick once in play. I did break one when I was coming off of a shift, and I just slammed it into the boards like tomahawk chop, and that upset me. But yeah, I never really broke sticks playing. So I'd have them. They'd get really thin, but I'd keep using those things like that. But yeah, I also love tennis. That was a little expensive to keep going with, but I did wrestle. I actually originally went to college to wrestle, but then I got hurt. But in the meantime, that's not that expensive. It's not really expensive to, wrestle around with some dudes, right? You could do that for free. A lot of people do. Wednesday night at the bathhouse, you're wrestling it up. And lo and behold, I never even got cauliflower ear. I actually saw a guy that I wrestled with a couple weeks ago. First off, I'm like, holy crap, that guy looks old. Like, why? I think I look pretty good. I always get all this pumped up. Like, I think I still look pretty damn good. Because what you get is this guy comes over and goes, Jim, man, what's up? I'm like, who the fuck is this? Look at this guy, Old Man River. Well, what's going on? Looks like he was going to point to me and go, thinner. Like, he was looking bad. And I said, oh, and then I never say like, oh, and then they realize. I go, oh man, hey, what's going on? And then I have to keep listening. And they're like, oh man, remember when we did this? And they're like, remember me, you and Jamie doing, oh, hey John, what's up? It's like 3 minutes into the conversation when that comes up, like stuff like that. Pretty fun. But yeah, and again, most of the people, I had a lot of problems with a lot of people, but most of the people I played sports with, I really do like. And I really end up, when I see them, I end up having some fun talking, though. They still, I swear to God, I'm waiting for them to pull out their Letterman's jacket, try to put it on. It doesn't quite fit. Speaking of the deal with Dungeon Crawler Carl, I did talk to Wes about this at one point. I never had like a Letterman's jacket. I couldn't afford the jacket. So I just had the letters and I put them in the shoebox and I still have it. I remember that's one of the few things that I grabbed before I ended up not talking to my mom anymore, whatever. I have like the shoebox of like 40 letters. It's saying I'm bragging here, but I did have a bunch of them, some pins and stuff. Pretty cool. Tried to show my kids that. They didn't care. Showed them some of my hockey jerseys and stuff. They didn't care about that either. And I was like, yeah, go screw yourself. So at least I didn't punch him, though, like my dad. But that's it. We're at the 2-hour and 19 mark. My dad is maybe in heaven. I don't know. He probably did some sus things. Wherever he's looking up or down, he's probably berating me right now. And hopefully he's got a poker right up his fat ass. So there you go. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for, I was trying to get the Reuben sound effect. For some reason, I could not find it. I do not have it. I do have Jenny from Blackpink.
Benga! Benga!
Still doing it twice for no reason. So nice she does it twice. Stop by the Manhole for 2-for-1 wrestling night. It is that. The Salty Dog tonight featuring wrestling. Live on stage. Next up is Jim Starfire. Hey there, everybody. And Nitro. We're there wrestling it up. But Dungeon Crawler Carl says, have a good week. Everybody have a good week. I could come and I can play a song out if you would like. I did end up making a indie song tonight. I was doing our indie podcast. I do it with Zach, the guy Zach. And he said, there's no indie theme. So I said, well, I'll make one when we're done. And I said, you want to hang out? We'll make one. He goes, no, I'll go. And I don't know how long he thinks these things take. But I ended up saying, what's your favorite band? What band? And he's like, I like, 3 Days Grace. So I'm like, 3 Days Grace? Okay. I said, I'll get back to you in a second. And I went and I'm thinking, 3 Days Grace. All right, I get that. I listened to one of their videos, right? And watching it. And I'm like, boom, 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 boom. And I sent it to him. And he's like, holy shit, did you get 3 Days Grace to do it? I'm like, you are singing my tune, pal. It took me like 8 minutes. And most people listening would probably say, we can tell. But I'm not going to play that. That's an indie comics podcast theme. But maybe I will. I'm bragging enough that I could play it. And then people will be like, you are full of crap. But I will play. Let's see. What should we play? What should we play? Any requests? Do you want to hear dirty songs? Do you want to hear songs that are kind of legit songs, but not comic songs? Or do you want to hear a comic song? I don't know. Dungeon Crawler Carl wants to hear something that sounds like Alice in Chains. Well, I did do at one point, what was it? I did once a deal to Wood, but these are stuff that would get everything taken down because of copyright deal. But I did do, what did I do with Man in the Box? It was a parody song. Oh, it was if you remember, Joshua Williamson had that thing at the end of his Flash run with the villain Paradox. And I had that one. That was pretty good. That was a pretty good one. A folk song, you say? I have a couple of folk songs that are dirty songs. The thing is, I don't have a lot of songs that are really great, that are comic songs, that are stuff that people would enjoy. But some guitar tabs. You'll want some guitar tabs. I'm trying to think of something. I could play this indie thing, and you could see if you like it. It's basic. I did it in like 8 minutes, but I thought it was okay. And in this, I never know that you're here. You should mention it. And oh God, we need a Lou Reed Metal Machine music parody. Would be crazy. I still chuckle about your old school Thanksgiving song. Yes. Yeah. That yeah. I did have a good Easter song that I could play now that we're off, but I did play it on one of the things, and, and I got somebody, and it might be somebody here. It was somebody that was right, and they said they did not appreciate it. It's not that it was bad; they didn't appreciate it. It was a little sacrilegious, maybe. The last song I ended up doing, I did end up where I have a country song, but I also have a it is like a very emotional, like 90s ballad. I've been liking those lately. I'm saying this, and I haven't even gone to the folder. I'll look up my folder here. But I do have some other things, too, that I could play, but I'm not. I'm going to go to Sus Records. We'll just do that. Yeah, this one's kind of sus, but there's that one. I'm looking at these. What could I do? We got the Wakazashi song is catchy. I did play that to my wife, and she really liked that as well. I might see what you like. Maybe I'll play the one. Like I said, the lyrics are lame, but it is just a theme that's supposed to sound like what's it called again? 3 Days Grace. Not real familiar with them, so you might be like, that sounds nothing like them. But the guys seemed to think it was okay. We'll start with that. And then I'll find something else that may be a good one to go out with. I kind of like to push things. Very emotional, like Meatloaf. Kind of like that. I should do that. You could just do it. What's it called? I'll do anything, but I won't do that's a parody in and of itself. I mean, that song sounds like a parody before you even get the real song done. So, but let me see here. I got to go here. I got to go there. I got to go there. Date created. Here we go. This is the things. Here's the indie comic theme. And then after that, we will have a slow emotional song to end things that was kind of requested during our live stream over at Sus Records, which we end up. Yeah, I heard that. That's the thing. I don't know anything about 3 Days Grace. And every time I've asked 3 people, and every time I hear them say it, it is like, oh, that's the band where the guy got cancer. I'm like, I don't know. And then the next one, oh, that's the band that the brother took over. I'm like, is it because of cancer? Because I don't know. Yeah, 3 Doors Down. That Kryptonite song was okay. That was okay. It got overplayed. Like that and that Drops of Jupiter. That song, every time it came on, I wanted to bash somebody over the head. That song was so overplayed. And then it seemed like I think it was Charlie Sheen. Like, that was him, and I think it was, what's her name, Denise Richards or whoever. They got in a fight because that was Charlie Sheen's daughter's song or something. And then that became big. I'm like, I can't take it. But let me get the other song. I want to get all these lined up, and then we'll get out of here. This is taking too long. Everybody's leaving. Everybody's waiting with bated breath. But you can tell me if it does sound like it. And I'll probably adjust the lyrics a little bit. It's not the greatest of lyrics, but it's just the theme song. So see, I'm trying to, like, apologize for it already. And then the Sus song, the key to the Sus songs, I'll tell you, is you have to go a certain amount. Most people do YouTube. You will tell you. You can't start out right away yelling F-bombs or you're going to get shut down. So you have to, in a regular thing, that's why I do love theme songs. That gets rid of some of the time. But when you're doing the song itself and you have a channel that depends on those things not getting torn down to yourself, you have to start out really like legit. And you fool them. And then you hit them. Then you hit them with the up the butt stuff. That's what this song's about. But we'll start with the one. You can let me know if it's okay. And then you'll hear butt stuff, which everybody loves. Everybody's a big fan, I hear. And then we'll be out of here. But here we go. Thanks, everybody. I really do appreciate it. I have a lot of fun just talking. And lo and behold, I'm telling you, I give you guys a lot of credit. And I give you a lot of kudos that you're able to sit and listen to my nonsense, and I really do like that you do. So thank you so much, and I will talk to you the next time we'll be on is Friday night at 7:15 p.m. or around there when we will do our Absolute DC Comics show. We, being me and Gray, who I love, will be doing the Absolute Flash. I hope that picks up a bit, but that is it. So thanks, everybody, and away we go.
think I had everything figured out, but there were so many things I didn't know about. You tried to open up my eyes, but I wasn't ready to compromise. But if you leave me forever, I think that I would die. Now I'm stuck in the middle, losing my mind. I don't want you to leave me behind. I can't promise one day this fear might finally pass, but for now, please don't put it in my ass. The pain is something I am scared about. I need plenty of food, but you want to go without. I guess that's what they call bareback, but it feels more like a rectal attack. There's no way that thing is fitting in my crack. Now I'm stuck in the middle, losing my mind. I don't want you to leave me behind. I can't promise one day this fear might finally pass, but for now, please don't put it in my ass. I will try to make it up to you. There's still so many things that I can do. Ass to mouth may be a three-way, on my knees every night and day. I'm just not into anything with heart but play. Now I'm stuck in the middle, losing my mind. Just don't want you to leave me behind. I can't promise one day this fear may finally pass. I'm stuck in the middle, losing my mind. I don't want you to leave me behind. I can't promise one day this fear might finally pass, but for now, please don't put it in my ass.
Benga, benga. I can feel you like I just went blind. Can't shake the feeling of you in my behind. Toss and turn, our bodies become one. You go to town, baby, move those hips. You whip it out and press it to my lips. I've been waiting for this time to come. You know I'm not gonna run. I want it as a mouth from you. It's something I always wanted to do. I want it as a mouth from you. Just look into my eyes and you'll know that it's true. Check my oil using your dipstick. Now pull it out, baby, let me give it a lick. When I'm with you, I never have a care. I must admit it's an acquired taste. I don't want our love to ever go to waste. I don't want you to finish way down there, 'cause nothing else can compare. I want it as a mouth from you. It's something I always wanted to do. I want it as a mouth from you. Just look into my eyes and you'll know that it's true. Come on, baby, I can't go without. Come on, baby, give me ass to mouth. Please, baby, I don't wanna shout, so you better give me, oh baby, give me, oh baby, give me ass to mouth. Come on, baby, make your move real quick. It doesn't bother